Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Today is June 10th, 2026, and this is the APFA Retirement Seminar. Thank you for joining us. So, who are we? This is Kim Coates-Tuck. She's the APFA National Retirement Specialist. I'm Patrick Hancock. I'm the APFA Retirement Specialist Emeritus, and I have no idea where those pictures came from. That makes absolutely no sense at all.
But they look so young.
They look so young. And we have to give a shout out here to Ron Harris. Ron, hey. Ron Harris is responsible for an awful lot of the media and slides you will see today. And he's also an excellent resource for people that are looking for information on retirement. And
if you run into him on the line,
yeah,
you can bend his ear about retirement and ask him all your questions.
he's a good resource. Hey, Ron. All right, so that's who we are. Who we are not is we are not the company. This is a union meeting, and I have been a union rep long enough that I have developed a rather healthy cynicism about my employer. And so if I say things about my employer that offends you, okay, we'll get over it. Yeah. We're also not your financial advisors, and you will hear us say at least 6 times today that you need a financial advisor. That's not us. We're also not your attorneys. We're also not your Medicare advisors. Oh, who? Yeah, Medicare advisors. Yeah, it's a thing. We're also not your Social Security advisors. And you may need one or all of those people, but we're not it. But we are a great resource for a lot of things. Hey, I got a weird question for you. How many people do you think of our 28,917 members as of June? I see we've got an updated slide. Whoa, that's very cool. How many of those people do you think are over the age of 80? 80 and over? No guesses?
Tell us.
You're wrong. It is 45 people over the age of 80. We are agreeing. What's the next step beyond gray? I don't know, balding?
I just say we're a work group that has a lot of longevity. If we have that
we're
many
well experienced,
yes.
Seasoned.
No,
yes.
Longevity. We have
longevity.
Genes.
Yes. And a great deal of perseverance. And it's not just that one group. If you look at the people from 65 up, we've got 2,632 in the 65. And I think this is still the largest group.
This is the largest
single bucket we've got.
of flight attendants.
So between 60 and 64, 5,041. Wow, that's a lot of people. 3,278 in the 55 to 59. Filling out the rest of the chart here. Yeah, but look, when we start getting into these younger groups again, 3,200 in the 35, 4,000 in the 30, 3,400. And then, wow, 1,200 between the ages of 20 and 24. Yeah. So that means over 55, we have 12,060, and under 55, we have 15,692. When we first started doing these seminars, the over 55 was more than 50%, but that's still a substantial portion, which means 12,000 of our members are eligible to retire today. Mm-hmm. And if it seems like the company and the union and society in general is putting a lot of effort into making sure that people have information about what's going on, that is why. It's because it's a substantial portion of our membership where this is and it is becoming an extremely important question. All right, Kim, what have you got for housekeeping for us?
All right, some housekeeping items. Basically, the Good Slide handout, if you have it, it's our APFA retirement packet. Basically covers the same information that's in this presentation. So if you have a copy of it, you may want to take a few notes, but most of the information we'll cover is in there. We can mail you a copy or we can email you a copy. So if you want us to do that, just let us know. If you have questions, we've already received quite a few for the presentation today. You can still submit them via chat and we'll add them to our list. And we have stopping points throughout the presentation for various issues, and we'll do our best to get to all your questions. At the end of the APFA retirement packet, Good Slide, there are some very useful checklists if you're considering retirement in 6 months, 12 months, 30 days. tomorrow, even if you're retiring tomorrow, there's things you need to think about. So that's a good reason to get a copy of the APFA retirement packet. There's also a list of contacts, who at the company you call if you need a password reset for the retirees website and so on. Of course, the most important contact of all is retirement@apfa.org. So anytime you have retirement questions, either retirement planning prior to your retirement, or if you have a question about how something works after your retirement, you can contact us via that web address. All right, what does retirement really mean? That's what we're going to try and cover here today. So generally speaking, retirement comes in several different baskets. One of them would be your medical benefits. You have to think about your retirement benefits, like your travel privileges and so on. You want to make sure you work enough years to be eligible for that after, spending all this time at the company. You don't want to lose your travel benefits. Pension and 401k benefits, but we kind of had to switch that around. Back in the day, you could count on having a pension. These days, I would say the lion's share of us do not have a pension, and your 401k is going to be your primary source of income once you retire. Okay, the medical benefits we like to refer to as the amazing shrinking basket, because those used to be paid by the company or we pre-funded for them once upon a time. But after multiple bankruptcies with various airlines, that has gone away. And now basically, this is the main driving factor for people hanging out until they're eligible for Medicare, because we do get offered retirement benefits, but those are very expensive and most people don't opt for those. All right. So if you're thinking about retirement, here's some important questions you need to consider. What do I need to retire? What do I get in retirement? What about income? That's huge. That's the biggest concern for most of us. And what else do I need to research? What are those little details that I might not have thought about yet? So that's what we're going to try and cover today. So let's start with what you need to retire. Well, first of all, according to you need to be eligible. You need money, that big income piece, and you need to be ready. So I talk to people every day who have A and B, but they're still working on C. They're not quite ready to leave the flight attendant job and lifestyle. So in terms of eligibility with the company, you have to be at least you have to have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire. And in addition to that, your age plus your company seniority must equal 65 or more. And that's what we refer to, that's what American Airlines refers to as the 65-point plan. And that's their eligibility criteria for retirement. All right, money. Let's talk about money, Patrick.
All right. Hey, if you are doing long-range planning, there are two major questions you have to answer. The first is, how much do I need saved on the day I retire to last me the rest of my life? And that's actually one of the most common questions we get. What's the number? Like, there's a magic number, and there is a magic number. It's just different for everyone, which is, I know, really annoying, and I'm sorry about that. But so that's one of the first reasons we're going to say you need to go talk to a financial planner, because that's what they're absolutely excellent at doing, is sitting you down and going, how much do you pay for your mortgage? Because you may pay a lot less or a lot more than I do for your mortgage, or you may have paid it off, bless you. So you need to talk to a financial planner to get those questions answered and to find out what is that magic number. Once you get that number, you got to say, well, where am I now? And which brings up the next question is, how much do I need to have saved on the day I retire, between now and the day I retire? How much do I need to save every paycheck to reach that goal? And if you're thinking about retiring soon and you haven't started addressing these, you're going to have, I think, corporate speakers, more challenges because this is not a weekly sit down for a couple of days and kind of do it. By the way, of all these, my favorite graphic in this presentation, the one on the bottom right there, I said you held Christmas off. Yeah, we'll aspire to that at some point. So anyway, the general goal in retirement is you want to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. The problem I have with that is that I'm really tired of being poor. I want to be one of those retirees you see on the commercials, jetting off to my Caribbean vacations, going on to the gym and for my Silver Sneakers membership. But apparently that is not the goal. The goal is to maintain the same lifestyle you've had while you're working. So if you're going to retire at age 67, the first question you need to ask is, how long am I going to live?
What?
What? How long am I going to live? What kind of question is that? Well, that is the most critical question that you're going to have to answer. So, and that's the problem. That's the first of our answers. That's not really an answer. And that's going to be the most frustrating thing about retirement planning is that we want the number. We want the answer. And there isn't one. When you start with the first question is, how long am I going to live?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And for those that know, it's really actually in our society is considered really sad. You know you only have X number of days, weeks, months, years. So yeah, and that's the most frustrating part is you can't get solid answers. What you can get are approximates, estimates, best guesses, educated estimates, and which, by the way, is something else that financial planners are really good at. All right, well, let's go. So that becomes the first of our guesstimates because it's not really a number. Your life expectancy in 2025 is 79 years, and that's actually up. So we're very happy that the number is going back up in the right direction. I was looking at a chart this morning about life expectancy of the top 20 countries in the world. We didn't make the top 20. Sad but true. 2020, we had the largest decline since World War II. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, deaths of despair. Thank you, opioid epidemic. But anyway, so 79 years. Now, the thing is, that's 76.5 for men and 81.4 years for women. Hey. So, guys, I got a question. If we allegedly run the world, and I do believe that's true, how do you let that happen? Yeah. It's actually less for African Americans, 74, more for Hispanics, 81.3. So as you can tell, these numbers are all kind of personalized. I got all this stuff out of the National Vital Statistics Report, volume 64, book 6. And I swear I have found the solution to insomnia. You take this on a layover, you will sleep like a baby. So that becomes the first of our guesstimates. And the problem is it's just an average. Half of us are going to die sooner, half of us are going to die later. I love telling the story. I started going gray in high school. And I came home one day and I said, Mom, this gray hair is apparently all your fault. In biology today, we learned that everything about a man's hair comes on the mother's genes. So thank you. What's going to happen next? Like I'm going to go to bald in college and then my uncles or grandparents are going to go bald early. She says, oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long. Good to know. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So if it's an average, the question you have to answer is which half are you in? And it sounds really flippant, but it's not. Which half are you in? And we all want to be in the half that lives forever, although I've never quite gotten I want to be in that half. I just don't know why, because I work with 100-year-old people and yeah. So anyway, that's the question. And you have to come up with an answer to that because that's going to, as you'll see later in the presentation, is going to drive a lot of the things choices you're going to make. But that's only one of it. Some of the other guesstimates are what's going to happen to your salary over the rest of your career. Because as we know, salaries always go up unless you're in the airline industry. Yeah, I've had 2 major pay cuts in the course of my career. So yeah, how about inflation? Because we know that always goes up on a nice, steady, even pace, except for the last 30 years. Other than that, how about stock market returns? I don't even want to talk about it. It's
crazy.
I have a prescription just for that issue. So yeah. So we got all those guesstimates done, and now we have the harder question of all. Are you ready to retire? Yeah. And the thing is, you need to be ready. we talk to a lot of people who've already retired. The company finds some new way to screw them and they call us, we work it out. And they're thanking us profusely. Wait a minute, I got a question for you. Did you leave at the right time? Was it too soon, too late? What do you think? And like 98, 99% of, oh, I love the fact I retired. It's the most wonderful thing I did. I don't know why I didn't leave earlier, except I couldn't afford it, or I didn't have insurance, but yeah, it's great. I'm glad I retired. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the 1 or 2% that aren't happy. Why aren't you happy? What would you have changed? What went right? What went wrong? And almost inevitably, the ones that aren't happy are because they didn't plan. Their doctor said you can't go back, and it wasn't on the plan. Your supervisor and the union rep met you on the jet bridge, and you took the sudden out. The union rep says, "I got your retirement. I recommend you take it. You take it. You hadn't planned." I've got good news for you. You are here listening to the sound of our voices because you're planning. So you are going to be in the group that does well. So congratulations for that.
Yay.
So have you reached that point? Yeah. If you've reached that point, and the thing is, we're flight attendants. We talk to people about it. We talk. I mean, God, we talk. You're going to talk to your buddy, but you're going to talk to that non-rev on the jump seat next to you. You may even talk to your spouse and your financial advisors, and they're all going to give you the advice that's best for them, and not necessarily for you, because that's just the way we work. So you have to ask yourself, am I ready? And have I reached that point? And I talked to a flight attendant probably a year ago now, and she said, yeah, I wasn't sure. And I was sitting there balancing these conflicting emotions in my head. I didn't really want to stop working. I didn't really want to keep working. And I wasn't sure what the future was, which is a really unusual point when you get into your 60s or so and you're still struggling about what I want to do when I grow up. So, she said, but I recognize that feeling. She said, when I was deciding to be a stewardess or not, and she was old enough that she was going to be a stewardess, she says, I wasn't certain. It could be good, it could be bad. But once I decided to do that, that was it. And she says, that worked out well. And so I said, okay, that worked out well. I'm kind of feeling the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and retire. And she says, it's been fabulous. I don't know why I waited. All right, so you've decided you're going to retire. How and when? Well, how is the retirement notification form? There's now a mandatory form. You can find it in Crew Portal, Department's in-flight admin form. You look at the first block of all the little links on there. It's the last form on the right-hand side. When? Well, if you're electing the RHRA, and I know we haven't talked about that, we will. You will need to give 4 months notice requirements. If you are not electing the RHRA, no notice is required. You can retire between the beverage and the meal service. I am filing for understaffing pay, but we recommend 30 to 60 days because there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I started a list the other day about things that they have to do behind the scenes. It's a long list of things that have to be done. I mean, everything from, getting you out of the known crew member system and getting your final paycheck done and getting your insurance. There's a long list. So you don't have to give any notice at all, but things will be much smoother if you give them some notice, but you still have to fill out the form. And I think it used to be in the tablets. You could do it between the beverage and the meal service. I'm not sure it's still there anymore, but yeah. All right. And what's that form look like? It looks like this. And you'll notice right on it, it says notification. The little blue dot says notification to initiate retirement. And the little blue dot below it says notification to rescind retirement. So use the same form if you change your mind. Flight attendants never change their mind. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah,
a lot of people who are kind of going back and forth find that very comforting.
Yes.
That they can rescind it if they change their mind.
Absolutely. So you can change it if you can rescind it if you change your mind.
Now, I don't know, even though it's an electronic form, I don't know that I'd leave it to the day before to resend it, but you can resend it. I'd probably, if I was going to change my mind, maybe do it a few days before that date hits, but I haven't seen that tested yet.
Yeah. I had one flight attendant not the day prior, but the day before her last day. And things happened and she needed to rescind, and it was a mess. I think we got her back off, but I would not ever want to go through that again. So,
Mhm.
yeah. All right. So that's your notification form. Kim, do we have questions?
We do have some questions.
All
So
right.
here's one for you. It's regarding timing your retirement date. When's the best time to retire? And I know that's somewhat personal, but maybe you can talk a little bit about it. Around your birthday, especially if you're starting at Social Security, or is it better to go at the end of the year? What are your views on the pros and cons of that?
Okay, there are a couple things you want to think about. One is you got to be eligible. So if you're not quite yet, don't leave 2 months before you're eligible. Make sure you're eligible. Secondly, there are health insurance is amazing. It's just a small part of our lives, and yet it seems to dictate so much of the timing of stuff. So I am on the American Airlines Standard Plan. I've got like an $850 deductible, and I will spend out of pocket $850 usually in the first 2 or 3 months of the year meeting that deductible before I even start getting into my copays. There are people that are in much worse position than I, and they max out their insurance like by June, so that after that, okay, if you've paid the $850 deductible and it's now April, if you switch to Medicare or to your spouse's plan or to some other healthcare plan
In the
because
middle
you're
of the
retired in
year.
the middle of the year, you have a new deductible. It may not be big. You may be moving into a plan that has like a $50 deductible or something, but it's something you want to think about. That by itself actually drives a lot of people to think about, well, let's just retire on December 31st. And that way my insurance from American and my Medicare line up. I'm going to have to pay a new deductible on January 1st anyway. So that's one thing to consider. The second is when you decide when you want to take Social Security, you don't have to take Social Security on the day you retire, but a lot of people decide they want to do that. So if you are not yet 67, you want to count out how much money have I earned this year. And if it's November and you've already earned, $80,000, $90,000 such that you're going to start Social Security in November and you're not yet 67, you may have a penalty because you've earned so much money for the year. So you want to do the math. It may not be, but you definitely want to do the math. So think about your medical, think about your Social Security, any penalties, incomes, and so on.
And talk to a Social Security advisor.
Absolutely.
We're not totally up to speed on that. And things are changing a lot right now in the federal area in terms of taxes, credits, Social Security, Medicare, things that can affect all that. So really talk to an expert.
And then what I call some of the compelling external, when's your CQ?
And we have a bunch of questions.
We have a bunch of questions on that. So those sorts of things. So when do you want to retire? You have to balance all of these. And for some people, I don't care about how much extra I'm going to have to pay on insurance. I am not going to do CQ, or I don't care how much I don't collect on Social Security because I am not going to stay a minute past the day I can leave. So
my anniversary date,
my anniversary
year
day,
anniversary, or my birthday at 67 or something like that. So
yeah, I want to say I flew for a full X number of years, and that date drives your decision, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. The things driving my decision, you may think are crazy, but that's the things driving our bidding, you may think are crazy. And so we're all individual, but do think about all those things, and do talk to some advisors, your financial advisor, your Social Security advisor, your Medicare advisor, and do try and make sure that you understand all of them. They may not be compelling for you, but you want to make sure that you get them. All right.
Okay, next question. I guess I'll take this one.
You just want a short answer.
I know. I gave you that first one. How much notice do we give? To whom do we submit our notice? Can we give notice while we're on a medical leave? So you can give notice while you're on a medical leave anytime you're ready, you're ready to retire, and you're eligible. Make sure you check that you're eligible. Yes, you can retire from a medical leave and you can give notice from a medical leave. So back to how much notice do we give? If you want that RHRA account and you have a bunch of sick time that you want to deposit 50% of the full value of your sick time into the RHRA account, because there's no way you're going to use it all before you leave, you have to give 4 months notice, at least 4 months notice, if you want the RHRA account. Otherwise, really, it's up to you. Like Patrick said, you can retire between the beverage service and the meal service. Most people do give 30 to 60 days. If you're retiring, you want to fly, and we have a lot of questions about CQ today, and we'll go into that a little bit. But if you want to fly in your base month and your grace month without doing CQ, then the company needs to know you're going to retire at the end of your grace month. So I would suggest maybe 90 days, 1 month before your base month would be a good time to submit your retirement notification if you're wanting to retire without doing another CQ. So
can I interject there?
You may.
You will find you put in your notice and that goes over to these people. Training doesn't see that. So
Right.
Training is going to schedule you for CQ. Call the training support desk and say, hey, I would love
No,
to.
You have to call your supervisor.
Who's that?
I know. Who's that? Exactly. You have to find somebody in management at your base who can call the training support desk and tell them, hey, this person's going to retire. Please remove training from their schedule. It makes it a little more complicated, but you can do that. Try whoever's listed as your manager, because I know I've had like 3 different ones recently, and I don't think I've met any of them. But try reaching your manager, leave them a voicemail. If you can't reach them, call the manager on duty in operations at the airport, and they'll be able to find somebody that's available that can help you with that. It can be a little bit challenging these days.
I hope people don't take offense to that. Who's my manager? I could not tell you. I could not tell you who my manager is.
I've had multiple different managers in the past few months. It's crazy.
In December, I had a woman come on the air. I was flying a long haul trip. Oh, thank you, fitting gods. And I had a flight service manager come on because they ramp the long haul now. And she introduced herself. Oh, pleasure to meet you. She goes, I'm your supervisor or manager, whatever word she was. Oh, since when? And she kind of, and I said, which of my managers are you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. All right. Hey, any more questions?
Yes, there are some more questions.
Okay.
So this is retiree travel, and I'll take it again. What are the requirements to keep travel benefits for retirement? Well, there's only one requirement. You have to be eligible for the 65-point plans. You have to have at least 10 years of company seniority, as we said, and your age plus your years of service must equal 65 or more. If you have that, you can retire from a medical leave, you can retire from any other kind of a leave, and you're eligible for retiree travel.
Oh, and don't get fired.
Yeah, don't get fired. Often they can work out a deal if you're getting fired. Hopefully that's not who we're talking to today, where you can get retiree travel if you agree to retire. But sometimes these days it's not guaranteed. So, right. All right, next, I'm 68 years old and on an IOD, which started August 14th of 2023. I've been on unpaid leave since May 26th of 2024. If I want to return to work, what's the last date I can return back to work? If I decide to retire, what benefits do I receive from the company? Well, if you decide to retire, you can retire from the IOD. If you're already eligible for the 65-point plan, you'll get your retiree travel. That's the main thing. You get access to the retirees website. You can get a retiree ID card. We're going to go through some of these benefits later in the presentation. If you want to return to work, there's something in our contract, and we refer to it as the 5-year clock. It's not listed in the contract as a 5-year clock, but it says you can't be on any unpaid status for more than 5 years. So if your unpaid leave started on May of 26th of 2024, you have to be returned to work before May 25th of 2029. Yeah. So that's how that works. And if you go look in your HI-10, it's one of the DEX codes. And if, you can't find it, get your supervisor to pull it up or something. It should show those dates in there. It shows that you went and paid and you know that. So you just kind of have to count 5 years out from that date. Anyway, so if you need a little help planning or anything, you can always, the health department's really good with the 5-year clock. And if you need help planning retirement, you can give us a call or email. All right.
Super. All right, Kim, what else do you get in retirement?
Actually, I think that's the last question. You're right. What else do you get in retirement? Okay, let's move along. So you get your travel privileges. We were just talking about that a little bit. You get paid out for your vacation and sick time if you're eligible for the 65-point plan. You get the option to elect the RHRA. That's also linked to this being eligible for the 65-point plan. You get a retirement gift. Yay. You get the status of being an American Airlines retiree. That counts for something. I don't know what. And you get the option to purchase some really expensive retiree medical insurance, also linked to the 65-point plan. So if you separate between the ages of 55 and 65, and you're eligible for the 65-point plan, you get the option to purchase retiree medical insurance. So let's talk about the travel for starters. You get your D1s, D2R, D2P, D3, AA20, and 2% off Advantage tickets. And you notice the D1 doesn't have an R after it. So when you're traveling D1 as a retiree, you're just in there with the other D1s. It's not D1R. All non-rev travels booked through the non-rev travel planner that's accessible on the AA retiree site, and that's www.retirees.aa.com. Service charges and taxes, just like when you're active, are charged to your credit card. When and if you get on the flight. A pro tip is to have your D3s enter their own credit cards so you don't get dinged for those charges.
Yes.
Zed fares are also booked through the My ID Travel app, which is on the AA Retirees website. So you do still have some companies that offer Zed fares to the retirees, which is great. There, unfortunately, is no jump seat authority, and no KCM. So KCM, I've heard a rumor that that's going away anyway before too long. I need to get confirmation on that, but I have heard that rumor. So we may all be in the same boat, whether we're retired or not, before too long. Okay, non-rev friendly travel agencies such as Perks. I've talked to a lot of retirees that go on really cool cruises all the time, and they get a good discount through those. And those are listed in deals and discounts on the retirees website. Also, you can access, if you can time it right prior to your retirement, and it all depends on timing. I'm not saying you can do this for sure, but if you're pre-check and global entry that the company is willing to pay for or reimburse you for, it's coming up and you haven't submitted your retirement notification form, you might be able to get it paid for by the company one more time before you retire. So just kind of, people talk about timing, that's one thing you can think about in terms of timing. All right, sick time and vacation. Your unused sick time is paid out at a whopping rate of $8.65 per sick hour. So that's not great. If you have a legitimate way to use your sick hours prior to your retirement, that is the best option. All unused and accrued vacation is paid out at your contractual rate. So you never lose any money on your vacation when you retire. The contractual rate is 4 hours per vacation day at your rate of pay. And just keep in mind, we got the new contract. We're still have a few more pay increases coming up. So our pay increase comes in on October 1st. So if you retire after October 1st in any given year when we're getting a pay increase for this contract, you'll get paid out for your vacation at the new hourly rate that comes into effect after October 1st. So I've talked to a lot of people that are planning to retire on November 1st, just saying. All right, so your vacation pay is not eligible for the employer 401k match and company contribution. However, when you get paid out for that vacation, if you've put in to increase your employee 401k deduction or any 401k deduction, it is eligible for your employee deductions to the 401k. So a lot of people decide to put one last, big deduction into their 401k with their vacation pay when they retire. Pro tip, you can change your 401k deduction amount on the Fidelity website. So, and I think you need to do that maybe one pay cycle before, something like that. So like after the middle of the month paycheck comes out, would you have time to change it for the end of, or
Yes.
probably for the vacation payout, because that usually arrives about 6 weeks after you retire. So. But if you call Fidelity, they'll tell you for sure when you need to get that in by. Okay, so another thing that's linked, another retirement benefit linked to the 65-point plan is the retiree health reimbursement arrangement, abbreviated to RHRA. Basically, you've got to notify the company 4 months in advance. This is the 4-month thing. So if you want the RHRA account, you notify the company 4 months in advance, and you get 50% of the full value of your sick time deposited into the RHRA. Now it's 50% of the full value, but it's still a lot better than $8.65 per sick hour. I did the math, and even if you have 40 hours of sick time left, it's more than $1,000 going into the RHRA. So to me, it's worth it more than $8.65 per sick hour, but that's a personal choice. So the RHRA is a notional account. That means there's not actual money sitting there in an account, but it's credit for reimbursement. So that means once you submit a receipt that you've had an eligible health expense, that's when it becomes money. But until then, it's not cash sitting in an account. You can't invest it. You can't get a lump sum payout for it. It's a notional account, and it only becomes money when you submit for a reimbursement. The RHRA, just like all the other health accounts at American Airlines, it's administered by Fidelity. There's a list of eligible expenses that can be found on the IRS website, and you can link to that through the Fidelity website as well. It's comparable to your FSA expenses that are eligible when you're an active employee. If you already have the RHRA that is linked to the Plus plan, so there's one health benefits option, the standard Plus plan. And if you sign up for that and you go to your doctor's visit, you get money deposited into an RHRA. Well, if you have that RHRA, you don't have to give the 4 months. They're not going to make you give 4 months. You've got that money. It's already yours. It's going to go into an RHRA when you retire. So if you already have the RHRA linked to the Plus plan, you don't have to give 4 months notice. If you want to have the 50% of the full value of your sick time added to that Plus plan RHRA money, then you have to give 4 months notice. All right, you get a retirement gift. Yay! About 60 to 90 days after you retire, your retirement gift catalog will arrive in the mail. So a lot of times people are like, I'm retired and I haven't heard anything. Am I going to get a congratulations, a card, anything? There's a few people still around in management at certain bases that do that. But for the most part, you retire, it's crickets. And then 60 to 90 days later, you get your retirement gift catalog in the mail. So, I wish it were otherwise. I think there should be a little bit more celebration and festivity when we retire after, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. But the company these days does not make that a priority. So it's sad, but true. Your retirement gift catalog comes with a commemorative gift not a gift certificate, a certificate of your years of service. So just make sure they spelled your name right on it. The options include a wide variety of gifts, Some are dust catchers, some are things you might use like a champagne bucket, or I think I talked to somebody that got a TV. And here's an example of one of the gifts, the lovely crystal American Airlines tail.
Oh, a pretty tail is so important.
Some people think that. There you go. And you can give yourself a gift by using your nonstop thanks points prior to your retirement. Remember, you won't be able to use those. You probably have a bunch of them that are sitting there in the employee recognition section of JetNet. Go use those, get some gift cards, make sure you do that before you retire because you deserve all that. All right, then we'll talk about the retirees website. Here's what it looks like, the basics, topics. You've got your quick links, benefits, travel, clubs and organizations like the Kiwis, and you also have access to your payroll information, all kinds of good stuff like that. So you can update your information, pay information, and if you need employment verification, that's where you go to find that information as well. You can also be eligible for a retiree ID card, and your status is going to be changing from when you are active, you're a lovely sky goddess, to, and this is what Patrick and I aspire to, so don't take offense.
Oh.
Cat rancher, yeah.
That's me. Oh, wait, no. I'm on the left.
It's me.
Yeah. I'm on the left, you're on the right.
I'm in transition. So, retirees submit an online request for your retiree ID. In most cases, they're not going to send you this automatically. They did when we had the VOPS, but since then you have to go online and actually fill out an application for your retiree ID card. Your retiree ID card is not used for travel. It is good for discounts on shipping like FedEx. You discount your hotels, rent car, those cruise discounts we were talking about. A government issued photo ID is what is required for travel. So your passport or your driver's license, passport, obviously, if it's international travel. Access to the AA Retirees website is part of what you get when you're eligible for retirement, that retirees.aa.com we discussed. Payroll access, we mentioned that. There's an archive, I think it goes back 7 years, and it shows your, like your record of the trips you flew, so your kind of monthly activity record. However, if you want your individual trips with the people you flew and those hours and everything, reschedules, all that stuff that took place, that your HI3, I think, you would have to print that up before you retire because you won't have access to any of that information. Oh, and if you're not able to retire, you're not going to get your basic retirement benefits, but you can just quit. You can decide, hey, I've been here 5 or 6 years, or I've been here 10 or 15 years, but I'm not eligible for the 65-point plan, but I'm just going to go ahead and quit because I've got something else going on in my life or whatever. So if you want to do that, you basically give notice to your flight service manager / crew manager, whatever they're calling them these days. You will get your vacation pay because that's contractual. So you'll get paid out for all of your unused and accrued vacation at the contractual rate. If you're a legacy AA and you qualify for a pension, you still have that pension, even if you quit. So you would contact Fidelity to find out when and how, what you need to do in order to draw that pension once you can. And then if you're a legacy US flight attendant and have a PBGC pension, you would contact the PBGC to get the same information about how to start your pension. Since you're not retiring, you're not going to get any payout for your sick time, and you're not eligible for the RHRA. All right, any questions?
Yes. So this one's for you. When do I notify AA I intend to retire? Is the 4 months prior to my last flight, prior to my last day as an employee, Or can I wait 30 days prior to the last day I intend to work a flight? What's my actual last day? The last day on the airplane, the last day as an
It's
employee?
not the last day on the airplane. So a lot of, if you call Fidelity or the PBGC or whatever, some people refer to your last day of work. Your last day of work technically is your last day of active employment, so it's the last day before you retire. So if you're going to retire on the first of a calendar month, your last day will be the 30th or 31st of the previous month. And you want to notify 4 months prior to your actual retirement date. So if you're going to retire on August 1st, you want to notify 4 months prior to that. So, and it's months, so
Okay,
it'd
good.
be April 1st if it was August 1st, so.
Um,
Oh, and if you're going to work a flight, just make sure it doesn't touch your retirement date, because anything that touches your retirement date, you'll be removed from. So if you want to work flights, that get in maybe a day or two before, I would, be cautious about maybe working a flight that actually gets in the day before your retirement date, because what if there's a delay? That could delay. If
On
you're
an airline?
working, you can't be retired, and so it could delay your retirement date, which could delay your pension and all that. So just keep in mind that, maybe give yourself a little bit of fudge factor and not try to work the actual last day before you retire.
All right, this question's really good about what we were just talking about, where
Okay.
my last day worked, my last day as an employee is not my retirement date. It's my last day worked. The next day is my first day as a retiree. And she's very, very specific about the timing here.
Okay.
I plan on leaving December 31st, 2026. It is my grace month, so my qualifications expire at midnight on December 31st, 2026. What date should I retire? December 31st or January 1st? I'm wondering if it makes a difference for tax purposes or benefits. I will not be 65 at the time of my retirement.
Okay, so the main thing it makes a difference for is benefits, because your AA health benefits, if you're on AA health benefits, end on midnight of your last day as an active employee. So if you chose to retire on the 31st, then your active benefits would end at midnight on the 30th. So for that very reason, because Medicare and a lot of other things start on the first of the calendar month, if you're going on Medicare, you should probably do January 1st. If you're going on a spouse's benefits or COBRA, it doesn't really matter, because there's a life event and your benefits can start at any time. So I guess that depends on your situation. But the reason a lot of people who are retire on the 1st is because Medicare starts on the 1st of any given calendar month. And they don't want to have one day without benefits. So they retire on the 1st, their benefits end at midnight on the 30th or the 31st, depending on the month.
All right. This one's for me. If I retire in the middle of the year, say of April of 2027, would I still get my full 35 days of vacation that I earned in 2026? Yes. I'd like to say the word banked, except we don't use that usually. I get my credit, my 35 days of credit for that calendar year 2026, but I've got good news for you. In addition to that calendar year's 35 days, you worked January, February, March. So you earned vacation days in January, February, March. So you will get paid for those as well if you retire April 1st, 2027. That you accrue vacation days and we will pay you for them. The company will not get to keep those. That those are contractually earned benefit and you will get to keep those. And it's weird because we accrue on a calendar year, but we can't take them until like April or May of next year. So sometimes that's really confusing, but no, you accrue on a calendar year and you will get paid for every hour that you accrued on vacation. All right. I think that's the same question. Oh, sick days. It's the same question, but now instead of vacation, it's for sick days. If you have sick days, the 6 hours that you have accrued, and you have completed the 4 months notice to convert those sick hours into an RHRA, you will get that conversion on all the sick hours you've accrued up until the date of retirement. If you do not do that, if you just quit, go, retire without the proper notice, you do not get reimbursed for those sick hours.
Well, you get the $8 and
Yeah, you get
$65
$8.65
per sick hour.
Yeah,
So
for all of those ones that you've accrued and haven't taken yet.
as long as you're eligible for the 65-point plan, which we're assuming you would be if you're
Yes,
retiring.
if you're retiring.
Have we covered all the questions in this
No,
section?
this one's for you.
Okay.
I will be retiring on October 31st. Will I get my usual October 30th advance paycheck and my usual November 15th paycheck? How does that work?
That's for me.
That's for
I
you.
think that should be for you. I mean, when you retire at the end of the month, you get paid out. Your last paycheck is going to be for anything they owe you. So I've never heard of anybody being overpaid when they retire. I think, and our benefits are paid. Actually, people don't realize this, but when we're on regular payroll, our benefits are paid current. So if you're paying for benefits in a month, it's for that month's benefits. So you're not going to be overpaying for your benefits when you leave. So normally on the 15th, you get, say you retire on the 1st. 2 weeks later, you get paid out for that sick time, if you have any sick time left, and any pay they still owe you. But there's not like something that they're taking away. And then in 6 weeks after you retire is when you get paid out for all your vacation time.
All right.
So I hope I answered that okay.
The next
And if
question
you
is
have
the
more
same thing.
specific questions that I didn't answer, you can email the payroll people and they will tell you for sure. And their email is flight.payroll@aa.com.
All right. Okay, question on the RHRA. I'll take this one. Since there's no opportunity to establish a beneficiary with those credits, and remember, as Kim said, it's a notational account. It's not like there's a chunk of money sitting there. With your FSA or your HSA, there's actually a chunk of money sitting in an account somewhere with your name on it. An RHRA is just a promise that they're going to reimburse you when you submit the forms properly for eligible expenses. Therefore, there's no option to have a beneficiary for that. And the question is, because there's an option to have a beneficiary in my HSA, can I request that we use the RHRA funds first? Yes. And actually, when you fill out when you send in the request for reimbursement, you send it in for a particular account. So you have to do in your head, yes, I want to use up my RHRA funds first before I go to my HSA account. What a great observation. Good question.
And as far as the RHRA is concerned, you can't really have a beneficiary, but if you're married and you have an RHRA and you pass away, then your spouse is entitled to keep using that RHRA account to be reimbursed for medical expenses. That's the only time you can kind of leave the RHRA to somebody. But I don't think you have to designate a beneficiary. They know if you're married. So, and when you pass away, your spouse would contact the company and they would give them access to using the RHRA.
All right, excellent. I think we had one more 38 hiding down at the bottom here. Yes. What's going to happen to all the money I contributed through payroll deduction to accidental insurance, employee life insurance, and long-term disability? You won. You didn't die. So you don't get paid out for your life insurance. You won. It was a bet. Am I going to die before the end of the life insurance policy? You didn't. You won the bet.
And that's all what's considered term insurance. So while you're paying it, you could get a benefit. Once you stop paying it, it goes away.
Right.
So
yeah, you're not
it
putting money in an account to use later.
It doesn't accrue a cash value.
Correct. All right, excellent. All right, moving on. Let's talk about income.
Income, you love it.
I love it. Hopefully in retirement, you're going to have 5 different sources of income. 401k, which is what is going to be the big horse in all of our retirements in the future. An
Yes.
IRA, hopefully you will have an IRA out there. Social Security will be there in some form or another, some percentage of it. We'll talk about that later. Savings, and that may have some really weird, I mean, you think about your little share account down at the credit union, but there may be other ways to think about savings as well. We'll talk about that. And then if you have a pension and we're down to like 40% of the people have a pension, then we'll talk about that. If you've got all five sources, I like to think of it as a five-legged stool, and that's really stable, because even if one of the legs gets kicked out from underneath you, you still have the other four legs. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt, but it's more stable than, what if, like, say, Social Security? The headline in the Dallas Morning News today was that, well, now after all of the taking money out of it for the various and sundry programs that have happened in the last year, we're now looking at the trust fund not having enough money to pay full benefits starting in 2032. So we were at 2036, but now after the tax cuts, 2032, it's not going to go away. It's just going to be less than you had planned on. But what if Congress decided, and remember, all of this stuff is decided by Congress. What if Congress decided that, hey, you've got a 401k or you've got a pension, you took advantage of tax benefits already, so you don't need your Social Security. You don't need your full Social Security. They wouldn't do that. Oh, yeah? They already did it.
It's been discussed, and it's been discussed again.
Yeah, and it's being discussed again because 2032 is coming up quicker than we care to think about.
And this is important. We all need to be calling our congressmen and senators and, telling them that they need to fix Social Security. They don't just need to kick the can down the road again. They need to go in there and actually fix it, because Reagan administration kicked the can down the road by raising the age from 65 to 67. I know you're going to talk about that, but not one single president, Democrat or Republican, since then has done anything to fix the problem, and it needs to be fixed. It's a bipartisan issue. It affects everybody. Everybody should be concerned about this.
Yep.
So,
and when I
just
look
saying.
and when I look at this list, all these options, I am so grateful. I work for a unionized workforce where the union cares about income for their employees, whether they're active or retired. And I contrast having this five-legged stool to the half of Social Security beneficiaries that's all they've got. I mean, my God, how secure is your financial life when your entire financial life depends on the good graces of the U.S. Congress? Good Lord, save us. All right. Hey, what about my 401k loan? Well, the first option, if you have a 401k loan, is just continue the loan payment back on the current amortization schedule. You don't have a paycheck, so they're going to send you a form to fill out, and they take the money out of your checking account. You just keep paying it off. That's probably the best choice. The second option is you stop making payments and take the outstanding balance as a distribution. This will be taxed as income because all of your 401k non-Roth are taxed as income. And if you are not yet 59 and a half, you pay the penalty on that as well. This is a bad choice because your money now stops growing because you took that as a distribution. Don't do that. Let's talk about the 401k. Your 401k will freeze during the first 30 days of your exit from the company. I mean, freeze solid. You can't make money in, you can't take money out, you can't change this, that, the other thing. So, if you need money out of your 401k in the first 30 days, you might want to consider rolling a little money out just prior to exiting so you will have access to that 401k money you need. I also want to point out that if you need money out of your 401k in the first 30 days of retirement, you may not quite be ready for retirement. Please talk to a financial advisor before you do that. And the other thing is you can roll your 401k into an IRA. You can leave it and manage it through Fidelity. A lot of people decide to just leave it and manage it through Fidelity because you have all of the markets that you can invest in through the brokerage window. A lot of advisors may tell you, oh, you need to roll your 401k into this IRA. And I think some of their motivation might be is that you're going to sell all of your investments in the 401k, roll it to the IRA and buy all of those investments again, because they're probably pretty good investments. And they make a commission when you buy in the IRA. That may or may not influence their advice to you, but you probably want to talk to a financial advisor that you know exactly what they're going to get paid. And I usually look at fee for service. You pay them an hourly rate. They give you their best advice because what you do doesn't impact their income. It's clear up front. And our fees on the Fidelity account, we pay an approximately $100 or less than $100 a year for the administration of that huge, the website and all of our access. And that's really actually a very good deal. Compare that to some of the other choices out there. So that's your 401k. Let's look at the IRA. You've got a pre-tax and a post-tax. The Roth kind of sounds like the 401k we were just talking about. The problem with the IRA is that there are some limits. 2026 income limits are $153,000 in single, $242,000 married filing separately. I guess it was in February, my neighbor across the street called ranting and raving because they weren't letting him contribute to his IRA. They put money in 2025 and they made him take it back out and pay taxes on it. And I said, that's because you made too much money. Cry me a river. Yeah, okay. The other thing is that you can convert your 401k into an IRA that we called it roll earlier. If you do that while you're active, you can roll it back. But once you have retired, any conversions out of a 401k is a one-way door. So you really want to know what you're getting into when you do that. It may be the right choice. I can come up with some really good explanations as to why you want an IRA. Particularly after you get into late retirement planning. But there are some good reasons to leave it in a 401k. And I think we've got a question coming up about it.
We do. We have
All
a
right.
question about this exact subject.
So let's talk about questions. What questions have we got?
All right. The first question that relates to this subject is, I'm 72-year-old employee. I participate in our 401k and also have a traditional IRA with a different investment firm. Next year, I'll be required to begin receiving my RMD with my IRA, not with the 401k because she's still employed. Prior to my 73rd birthday, I'm permitted to roll. Am I permitted to roll from the outside IRA into my AA Fidelity 401k to postpone the RMD until I retire from AA?
You can roll it into your 401k if you roll it before the year in which you have the RMD requirement. So for instance, if you are going to have a requirement in 2027, and on January 2nd of 2027, you roll that IRA to a 401k, you had money in that IRA in 2027 on January 1st. So you missed the window. You can roll it in to your 401k, assuming you're still an active employee, if you get it rolled back into the 401k before the taxable year.
And another thing they could do, but you should also talk to your financial advisor,
Absolutely,
is convert the traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. You would have to pay some taxes on it, but taxes now are relatively low and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But again, we're not financial advisors. That might be something you want to discuss with your financial advisor.
And that's, if you look in the any of the financial retirement press, you'll see that discussion all the time. Should I do my conversions now and pay taxes on whatever my current tax rate is? Or should I wait and pay taxes when I have RMDs? And that requires you knowing two things. Number one, what tax bracket are you in now and going to be in when you're retirement? Because some people are going to have a lot more money in retirement than they have now. And some people are going to have a lot less in retirement than they have now. And that drives whether you want to pay the taxes now or later. And the second thing you have to decide is, what are the tax brackets going to be? The tax brackets in all the years, decades I've been studying this have gone up, they've gone down, they've gone up, down. So you kind of have to be able to predict tax brackets as well.
And that's why we say talk to a specialist, you know, a
Yes.
financial planner, tax planner. There's all different kinds out there. The AA Credit Union provides some of that kind of service. Fidelity provides some of that kind of service. You may have somebody you already work with, but it's really important, especially in this type of situation where you're 72, you're still employed, but you have this RMD situation with the outside IRA. So
Yeah.
definitely talk to an expert.
Good question.
Yeah, very good question. Okay, another question. Two questions. Okay, one, I'll take the first one. What happens to uniform dollars? Your uniform dollars are kind of just for uniforms while you're with the company. So if you have submitted your retirement notification form, odds are you will not have access to those uniform dollars anymore. So I would suggest if you need a new suitcase or something before you retire it, order it before you put in the retirement notification form. Because you're really not going to get any kind of credit or anything for your uniform dollars, and you probably won't be able to use them once you put in the retirement notification form. Now, maybe if you put it in a year out and, you know, your suitcase loses a wheel or something, but most people don't put it in that far out. So. Okay, the second question for Patrick. What happens with the balances of a 401k loan?
Okay, we just talked about that, and you've got the two options. You can continue to pay it. You just have to pay it out of your checking account instead of out of your paycheck. The second is you can say, I'm not going to pay it. They send it as a distribution. That's a bad choice.
And also, once you retire, you still have your 401k, but you're no longer going to have the ability to take a new 401k loan.
Correct.
So again, like he said about the 30-day freeze, if you think you need money and you don't want to take it as a distribution, you want to take it as a loan, you need to do that before you retire, you know, and then just keep paying off the loan if you think you need to do that. Okay, so I guess what else? Is it a good idea to stop 401k contributions 6 months prior to signing up for Medicare? This is one I don't know that answer.
I'm going to say no. And here's my reasoning. We will talk about IRMA in a little bit, but IRMA says you're going to pay more for your Medicare if you are a higher income. And your 401k contributions reduce your income. So, yeah, you would do better to continue your 401k contributions because it reduces your recognized income.
Okay, let's see. There's a couple more. Is our frozen, we haven't talked about pensions yet, so maybe we'll hold off on that.
Okay.
Okay, and then also that's pension. Yeah, so we're done with this section.
74 there.
Yep.
Okay.
We're done.
All right. Hey, let's talk about Social Security. Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Social Security. The first thing I can tell you is that I never thought I'd be talking about it.
God.
I never thought I'd be old enough. All my grandparents were sitting around talking about their ailments, talking about Social Security, and I thought that will never be me. Just shoot me. But here I am talking about it. And I don't want to be shot. I want to keep going. So there you go. Anyway, Social Security may be taken as early as age 62, as late as age 70. There is no increase after age 70, so no reason not to start taking it at 70 at the latest. The website for Social Security is www.ssa.gov. Go there. There's a lot of good information, very useful. So go to ssa.gov. You can find a lot of information about how to take Social Security. If you're married, you have complicated decisions on how and when to draw your Social Security. If you're single, there's about 8 or 9 different options, and multiply that, it's like 81 different options if you're married. It's crazy. So go on the website, talk to a Social Security advisor, make sure you're optimizing your Social Security benefits, and make sure you're going in and talking to your elected officials about keeping those Social Security benefits going forward. Social Security advisors are available to help you. There's different government websites in each state that can sort of help you with that, Social Security and Medicare. So All right, so early Social Security at age 62. We're going to discuss the pros and cons of taking early Social Security. So one pro is that if you need it, you can get more years of payments. You know, so you're going to get your Social Security payments for longer. Another pro, you get the money now if you need it. You know, for some reason you have to retire early and because of an illness or an injury and you're not eligible for Medicare, you're not 67 yet, but you need the money. You know, you need to look at your situation and do what's best for you. A con is that you have lower payments for the rest of your life. You'll be subject to income limits. So until you hit your Social Security normal retirement age. So, and the income limits for 2026, you can earn 24,480 in income. Above that, they're going to deduct $1 of benefits for every $2 earned. So basically, if you're working, you have to fly the hard 40. The hard 40 if you're at the top of the pay scale, and I'm not sure where the break is as you go down, but at the top of the pay scale, you're making way more than 24,480 if you're flying the hard 40. So if you're just flying low time and you're thinking about starting it early, just realize there will be a tax implication if you do so.
I would be willing to bet that you have to have 10 years of, so you're at the 10th year step. But even that 10-year step at 40 hours is going to be more than 20.
Right, exactly, exactly. Especially with our, you know, few more pay increases that we're going to get in this contract.
Yes.
Yay. All right, so the break-even point as to when it's, you know, it maximizes out if you're taking it longer or if you're starting it later is the average age of death that Patrick discussed.
I told you we'd come back.
When
to
are you
that.
going? Yeah, back to when you're going to die. I wish I knew. I think it'll be 100 at least. So I'll probably wait to take my Social Security, but we'll see. And my family history. So when should I start? So this is a graph that shows basically what we were talking about. The blue line is someone that starts at age 62 and the red line starts at age 67, or is it showing 66?
67.
Probably, yeah, 67. So the lines cross at the average age of death. So that's when your break-even point for starting it early would be, you know. But then if you're living longer, you know, it works out better for you to take it later. So full Social Security at SSNRA. I think you're going to talk about this one, Patrick.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
So special one-time limits for the year you reach Social Security, SSNRA. For the months before your birthday month, the limit on earnings from work is $62,160. What is my my Social Security normal SSNRA? Here's the chart. Depends on the year you were born. If you're born in 59, your SSNRA is 66 in 10 months. If you're born 1960 and later, it's 67. So considering that people who were born in 1960 are now eligible for, or coming up, close. We're close to everyone that's eligible is 67 or later. But I want to focus on that 62,160. This is the one place where Social Security, the rules don't make a lot of sense to me. So if my birthday is, say, in February, and I leave, I start my Social Security, SSNRA is in February, I'm allowed to have up to $62,000 of income. Yeah, I'm not going to have that at February. But if my birthday is in November, when I turn 67, I may very well have earned 62,000.
But I think I think it's only if you're going to, like, say, my birthday is in July.
Okay.
And I'm going to start I'm going to turn 67 and my Social Security is going to start. I don't think any earnings prior to that.
Okay.
It's only if I'm going to work the rest of the year.
Okay.
That's what I heard recently from a Social Security expert. And I think that's why it's good to talk to
I
a
think
Social
that's good.
Security.
Absolutely good.
Because
Yeah.
I don't think they would penalize people. Well, they might penalize you based on your birthday. You never know.
You
But
never know. You never know.
double check with the Social Security expert. But I think what you earn prior to starting it doesn't matter. It's just
Okay.
what you learn.
That makes total
Yeah,
sense.
but for taxes and stuff, obviously, for Medicare and things, that's another issue. And we're going to talk about that. So,
So you got these earnings, and then the question comes up, well, what counts as earnings for Social Security? Earnings are income from wages or net earnings from self-employment. And so no, we don't care what you call it, whether you call it your hourly wage, bonus, commission, severance, whatever you're getting because you were an employer, because you were working, that's going to count toward earnings for Social Security. Here's the good news. The good news is earnings do not include investment income, pensions, capital gains, inheritance. Thus, your dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits directly, even if you decide to file earlier than your full retirement age. So that means if you've got a whole bunch of money in savings and at 62, you decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and retire now and start my Social Security early, even though I'm getting $100,000 a year off my investment income, that's not going to negatively impact you. They're not going to penalize you because it doesn't count as earnings for that Social Security test. So that's good news. The other question we have about Social Security is there tax on Social Security? The first 15% of your Social Security is always tax-free. Well, that's good to know. But what about that other 85%? Well, it depends. You may be taxed on 0, 50, or 85% of the rest, depending on your combined income. So let's look at that income. So if you are making less than $25,000 combined income, that means none of your Social Security will be taxed. It's 15 and 85%. If you make between 32 and or 25 and 34,000, then we're going to tax 50%, not a 50% tax, but we're going to tax 50% of your Social Security income. And if you're more than 34,000, then all 85% of your Social Security will be considered taxable. So that's good news. Is there a state tax on Social Security? Well, in 37 states, your Social Security is state tax free. 13 states do tax some or all of your Social Security, and here's those 13 bad boys. Why is this important? Because you may decide, oh, I'm going to retire and move to New Mexico. Well,
or Colorado,
which actually I've thought about because I love Colorado. But anyway,
Vermont.
Vermont. Who's that? You may want to think about, do I want to change my residency to Colorado or Vermont? Or do I want to keep my residency in one of the 37 states that don't tax my Social Security? Because that may very well, in some of those states, the taxes are pretty high, pretty extreme. So you'll want to be thinking about where you want to live in retirement, not only in where's the weather good and my grandkids live, but also what the impact is on state taxes. Savings. In addition to cash, you've got stocks, bonds, you have hidden savings. For instance, home equity. And I don't mean a reverse mortgage. I really, really, really dislike reverse mortgages, even though they've gotten marginally better, not much, but marginally better. They just don't make economic sense to me, and I think they're abusive. But what you can do to tap your home equity is you could sell your 5-bedroom home in the suburbs and get a nice 2-bedroom condo somewhere where you don't have to mow the lawn anymore. And that's going to liberate a whole bunch of money that you can then put in savings and live off of. So that's a great way to tap in your home equity. There's also a lot of life insurance policies. Kim mentioned earlier that our employee life insurance is term, which means the bet is only for the period of the life term policy. But there are other life insurance policies called whole, or they've got a lot of marketing terms, but the general bucket's called whole life, in which you build cash value each month when you make premium payments. You may be able to tap into that. I have a client that they have been paying on their whole term life insurance for 40 years, and they can borrow up to $85,000 from that life insurance policy. And the life insurance policy is for like $400,000 worth of coverage. And they can take borrow that full 85,000, and it doesn't reduce the $400,000 payment, other than they they repay that $85,000 loan out of that 400,000 before they send it on. So there are life insurance policies that it is handy to do. All right, so that's most of it. Let's look at that last leg, pensions. Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
Okay, so if you have a pension, as we mentioned before, it may have been reduced by bankruptcy, but you're lucky because the lion's share of people no longer have a pension, which is sad. If you have a pension, it is dependent on which carrier you came from prior to the merger as far as how and when you can start that pension. So you may have started with Legacy US or Legacy AA, and any number of other carriers that were absorbed into these airlines. So started out with US Airways, you may have started with Allegheny, Piedmont, PSA, Trump Shuttle, original US Airways, American Airlines, we had TWA, AirCal, Reno Air, or no, Reno Air was one of the LUS.
No, Reno
Air
was
was, okay. So
LA.
yeah, lots of different ones where you could have started your career and now it's all American Airlines. So if you're a Legacy US Airways flight attendant and you started with the Trump Shuttle, basically your early pension age is age 52. Your full pension age is age 62. So you can start it early. In any of these calculations, if you start your pension early, there's going to be a 3% reduction per year in the full value of your pension prior to the full pension age. And that stays in place. So if you started at age 52, you're going to be reduced, that 3% times 10 years. So 30% of the full value of your pension. And that's going to stay lower for the life of the pension. But kind of like with early Social Security, you'll be getting it for more years. So some people think that's worth it. If you started at Piedmont, Allegheny, or US Airways, your early pension age is age 55, full pension age 62. PSA, early pension age 55, full pension age 65. So just keep in mind about that early reduction if you started it prior to the full pension age. With the Legacy AA pensions, you can start it if you have 15 years of retirement eligibility service at age 55 early, and the full pension age is age 60. Again, the 3% reduction applies per year if you take it early. We're going to talk a little bit about double dipping in a minute, but basically with the AA pensions, when it comes to taking your pension and working, there's not double dipping option, except for a very tiny little group that falls into an IRS loophole. So double dipping. So double dipping is the ability to take your pension while you're working. And for the Legacy US Airways people, they can double dip at the early or at the full pension age. That means they can take their PBGC pension while they're still working for American Airlines. The early reductions still apply. And again, there's no reduction at the full pension age. So pension options. Patrick, how many different ways can I get my money?
That's a great question. There are three basic ways to get your money. The first is a single life annuity. The PBGC calls this a straight life annuity, but fortunately for us, the acronym SLA and SLA. So yes, I don't know why they call it straight life annuity. You can share it with someone else. So, and I do remind you, it is nice to share, or you can get a minimum number of checks. So let's look at that. A single life annuity is you get a check every month until you're dead, which is basically what the single life annuity, the payment every month is an annuity for life. That's why we get life annuity, and a single life. So that's where we get single. So SLA. And SLA is the normal form of benefit. Well, what do I mean by normal? Well, do you remember back when we were talking about trying to calculate your number, how much you need to save every month in order to have enough? For the pension, the company has to do the same thing. They have to make the same calculation, and they have to figure out how long you're going to work, how much you're going to make, when you're going to die.
They think they know when we're going to die.
They think they know, and yes. And But I have often thought that the bid sheet is actually driving some of that, but, so they also have to know how are you going to take your pension. So they presume that you're going to take your pension as a single life annuity, and it's the normal form of benefit. And because they calculate that number using all those variables, that number, what's the value of your single life annuity? That value determines the other payment options. So let's look at those other payment options. First off, it's nice to share. That's a pension for your life and someone else's life as well. Now, they will get an annuity after you are gone. And so we call that the survivor annuity because they survived you. Now, remember, it's still the same big pile of money. And you can choose to leave them 50 to 100% of what you get, not your single life annuity amount, because remember, you elected to share, so you're going to get less. But the more you leave them, the less you get while you're alive. Well, darn, I guess I'm just going to bite the bullet and take less while I'm alive, because otherwise, when I'm dead, Bozo's going to be living under a bridge. So I guess I'm going to have to do that. All right. But what happens if they die first? Oh my God, I'm stuck at that lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with the single life annuity, but I decided to protect Bozo. So there you go. Now, I think the technical name is screwed. Ha! But I've got something for it. There's a way to cover that risk. And that is, flight attendants have another option. It's called the pop-up option. By taking a slightly or amount each month while you're alive, you can cover the risk with the joint annuitant dies first. With the pop-up, if your joint annuitant dies first, you pop back up to the single life annuity on the very next check as though you never made that as options, that election. So, and most people are going to take one of these two options, the single life annuity or the joint and survivor. And most people that take the joint and survivor take the pop-up option. The cost of that pop-up option varies with the age difference between you and your spouse. And I know you married that 32-year-old pool boy, you go girl. So you'll, of course, want to talk to a financial advisor about that, because what are your other options? But most people are going to take one of those two options, but there is another option, and that's called the guaranteed period certain. Checks come for a minimum of 10, 15, or 20 years, or 5, 10, or 15 if you're LUS. And there's not a lot of people that take that choice because it's, why would I take less now so that I get 10 years of checks unless you're pretty certain you're not going to last the 10 years. And those are normally the people that would take it. They're pretty sure they're not going to last 10, 15, or 20 years. And they have some obligation or some real important need for that check to come. Doesn't apply to very many people, but you should know it's out there.
And it's a minimum. So if you live longer than that period enables you to leave that amount to somebody else during the period. So if you had a kid in college or something, and you don't think you're going to be around longer, but if you live longer than that period, you're still going to keep getting that same amount as long as you live. So if you live longer than the period, you probably made the wrong choice because you took a reduction and you lived longer than the period.
So you live longer and lost. Wait, no, no, actually, and it's like we say, it's not. It's an interesting option to have out there. Another option is the fourth. Legacy A has a fourth option. It's called the level income option, and American says we will give you more upfront and less later. Why would I do that? Well, let's say you are 61. Let's say 60, and you took the sudden out. You are now not employed anymore, and you have your pension, but that's it. And Social Security is not going to kick in until 62 or 67. And you're going to be fine when Social Security kicks in, but right now, my pension by itself isn't enough. American says, tell you what, we will give you more now, but when Social Security kicks in at 62 or SSNRA, we will give you less. And if you need it now, that's a great deal. If you're pretty sure you're not going to live to SSN or something, then it's a great deal. But otherwise, I'm not even sure it's actuarially sound, but if you need the money now, it's there. Probably need to talk to a financial planner about that. So I'm going to do it. I've made my decision. How do I actually apply for my pension? Well, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. Oh, no, I have to plan 6 months in advance. Sorry. No earlier than 90 days before you start your pension at LAA, you can request a kit. What's the kit? That's a stack of papers you're going to fill out. And you can either request it over the phone by calling the AA Pension Center, or it's actually much easier online. You know where you pulled up that estimate on the Fidelity website? One of those buttons said, send me I want to get my pension, and they will send you the kit. It costs them money because they have to have a real honest to God expert look at the kit before they send it out. So they don't want to send it out unless you're actually serious about going, and they're not going to send it out any earlier than 90 days before the day you want to start your pension. LUS, you get this a different stack of papers, still a stack of papers, by contacting the PBGC directly. Either call the 800 number, or if you've already established a MyPBA account on the PBGC website, you can do that there. You know, we were talking about taxes on Social Security. Are there taxes on pensions?
Yeah.
Yes, you pay
Unfortunately.
federal tax on pensions as ordinary income, either 10 to 37% rate. What rate are you in? Well, it depends on how much you make. If you make 0 to 11,000, you pay 10% tax. And if you make 578,000, you're not a flight attendant, and you pay a 37% rate. Now, of course, those amounts, the taxable income is adjusted by your deductibles, your expense, and all of that. But that's the tax brackets, and your pension will be included in that number and taxed regardless, according to what bucket you are in. So you'll notice the biggest jump right there. The first big jump is over 44,000. So if you make more than 44,000, instead of a 12% bracket, you're on the 22% bracket. That's almost a doubling right there in that little, at the 44,000. And then it jumps quite a bit again at the 182,000. So you're probably going to be much more focused on that 44,000. And you'll want to talk to a financial advisor about doing things like, maybe some years, I am going to be having more income, so I'll try and get as much income in there so that I don't, the next year I'm going to be below the 44,000 threshold in a lower tax bracket. So a lot of things you can do with moving your income around in retirement you can't do when you're an active employee. So talk to a tax advisor about that. Some states don't tax pensions. Well, that sounds vaguely familiar, like some states don't do tax Social Security. So you want to make sure you're in a state that's not going to tax your pension, or at least that you know what the tax is going to be. Again, where you live may impact how much you have left to spend on. And remember, your mileage may vary. These numbers are for some mythical flight attendant and not for you. Kim, what can you tell us about pension tips?
Okay, a few useful pension tips. Basically, the pension kits can be requested from AA or the PBGC no more than 90 days out from your retirement date. Well, basically, it's 90 days out from the date that you want to commence your pension, which is usually your retirement date, but sometimes for some reason or another, maybe somebody retires before they're eligible, they're too young to start their pension. When they're turning the age when they can start their pension, 90 days before that, they can call Fidelity. So most cases, it's your retirement date, but it's basically your benefit commencement date. Pensions always start on the first of a calendar month. You'll need to be done with your last trip. And if the PBS system works and you have a trip that conflicts with your retirement, you would be removed from that. But I don't know if I would trust it always, and I might bid accordingly. Fly through trips, if there were one, because of a delay or something that couldn't be dropped or changed, would keep you on payroll, and it would delay your pension and your retirement date. All right, more pension tips. Have copies of your divorce decrees, all of your divorce decrees. Oh, damn it. And quadros. That means if you have some sort of qualified domestic
retirement order.
a retirement order. That means, you know, if there's something in your divorce saying you're entitled to part of your spouse's or your spouse is entitled to part of your pension, they want to see that too. Your pension could be delayed if these documents aren't included. And it's usually in the divorce settlement, but every now and then it's separate. So double check. If you're widow or widower, you'll need to have a copy of the death certificate. Make sure you return it to Fidelity with the paperwork. If you're doing most of the paperwork online, there's still a few things that you actually have to sign. So if you have divorce decrees, death certificates, quadros, make sure you send those back along with the paperwork. And I get a lot of people saying, well, when I got divorced, I sent in my divorce certificate showing I got divorced. Well, that went to the benefits department for your benefits. And after they used it to take your ex-spouse off your travel and your benefits, it was shredded. So unfortunately, you have to resend it to the pension people. It's annoying, but you got to do it. The first month of your pension is always going to be paid retroactively, usually about 4 to 6 weeks following your retirement date. This is because, well, this is with the AA pensions and the PBGC. I guess if you're starting at right when you retire, it could be paid retroactively too, but with the PBGC, you can double dip and that's not usually an issue. But with the AA pensions, Fidelity is going to wait for a message from American Airlines to say that you actually retired. You didn't go in and resend your form and change your mind and change your date. So when they get a message that you actually retired, that's when they're going to process the paperwork, even if you got everything in 3 months in advance. Okay, the QIPSA, or Qualified Pre-Retirement Survivor Annuity. This is something that's a benefit just available to the legacy AA pension holders. And basically, federal law says that if you're married and you have a pension, your spouse automatically gets a 50% joint and survivor annuity. This form, the QIPSA form, allows you to elect to leave your spouse 100% joint and survivor annuity if you were to pass away prior to retiring and starting your pension benefits. So this is a pre-retirement form, only a just in case something happens before you can retire and start your pension. Once you retire, you'll do your pension paperwork and this form will become null and void. The form can be found on the Fidelity website, so netbenefits.com/AA. And flight attendants are the only work group at the company that can do this, can elect to fill out this form and the company pays for it. Other work groups, if you talk to a pilot, they'll be like, don't fill out that QIPSA form because it will reduce my pension. It'll reduce your pension. And that doesn't apply to the flight attendants. So it was negotiated to be free for our work group, which is great. Also, you have to have been married at least 12 months in order to submit the QIPSA form. You qualify. So make sure it's no deathbed marriages or anything like that. If only we could do that to give our pension to somebody, but I think the company sort of realizes its flight attendants are very, very giving and would do that. So they put a kibosh on it. You have to be married at least 12 months. All right, any questions about pensions? And we do have.
Yes, we've got a couple. I'm going to run two of the questions here together because they both address, and they're both with LAA pensions. So if you don't have an LAA pension, you can go get a cup of coffee right now. And that is about where's the money for the LAA pension kept and what's the bankruptcy risk? Funny, when oil triples in price, we all start thinking about bankruptcy. But the money for the LAA pensions is in an account at, I believe it's still at State Street Bank, administered by Fidelity. So the money is actually in a bank. The American can't get it back out. If there is a bankruptcy, another bankruptcy, and they want to no longer have to fund the pension, every year they still put money into the LAA pension because they're obligated to do so. And if they wanted to not do that anymore, they would have to convince the bankruptcy judge that they could not possibly do that and continue to survive on the other side of bankruptcy. That's a pretty high bar. And last time when America tried to do that, they were unable to prove that to the judge. So instead, they negotiated a deal where the pension was frozen and they continued to make the payments every year into the fund. Could they do it? You never know. Bankruptcy is such a crapshoot, and the laws are so tilted against the workers, it's a crime. But if they did, under the current rules of the PBGC, your pension is limited to a maximum amount. That they follow the rules in your pension, with a couple of exceptions, but they follow the rules in your pension, but the amount that you're going to be able to draw from that pension is limited. It's not entirely clear what date would be used if a frozen pension went to the PBGC. Would it be the date of the freeze? Would it be the date of the bankruptcy? But worst case, they say, well, it froze in 2012, so we're going to use the 2012 rates. The maximum pension, I believe, in 2012 for someone age 65 or older is $54,000. We don't have a lot of people with a pension more than $54,000. So for most people, that cap would not impact them. Who would be impacted? We have people that have a pension over $54,000. They would be impacted. And secondly, if you were not yet 65, say you started your pension at 55, your number goes down based on your, if you start earlier than 65. So those two groups, and there's not a lot of people in either of those groups, would be impacted. For most of us who are retiring at a normal, either 62 or 65 retirement age, we are not going to be impacted or impacted much by a bankruptcy. Bankruptcy would not be good. We would try to avoid that at all costs.
We'll be impacted in a lot of other ways.
Yeah, things like, work rules, wages, control the bid sheet, little things like that. But the pension risk, it's there. I'm not going to tell you there's no risk, but the risk, the pain from that is not a huge risk to us. Now think about who might be impacted by a $54,000 cap.
Pilots.
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 Yeah. So they would have a lot more impact than we do. One of the few advantages to being poor. All right, good questions.
There's more.
Uh-oh.
More questions. Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah.
It would be helpful to see the biggest differences, what the biggest differences are of flight attendants retiring before 65, 67, and 70. Reasons for retiring earlier or later. Generally, pros and cons affecting those retiring before 67 and after. And what would the main considerations be?
Okay, a couple of considerations. Number one, insurance. So if you retire before age 65, you don't have Medicare available. So you have to have some sort of bridge to get you to Medicare. Medicare is pretty much the deal in retirement, and it's not eligible. It's not available to most of us. There's and pre-65. So that's one of the advantages to waiting to 65 or later, and the disadvantages.
So one is Medicare.
One is Medicare. The second is
full Social Security.
Full Social Security that you will take less. And again, like Kim said before, you're leaving the company, which we call retirement, and you're starting Social Security, you're starting your pension, are independent steps. So you could decide, I'm not going to work anymore after age 60, but not start your Social Security until 67 or 70, or your pension until 65. So remember, those are independent steps. But for most of us, when we leave, we're going to start our pensions and or Social Security. And for almost all of us, I hate to ever speak in absolutes, but for almost all of us, we make more money working than we will from our pensions and Social Security. We have a reasonable wage for the work And you will not be taking home that much money from as you do as an employee working a full schedule, as you would from drawing your pension and Social Security. So the disadvantage of any age is that you're going to not have that wage income. The advantage is you don't have to go to work. I don't have to go to Omaha today. I mean, there's just kind of a liberation to that.
But then you add in your 401k, which is another bucket. And some people, if I keep reading in the newspaper and I want to meet all these people, but I keep reading and it's a Fidelity report that says there are more 401k millionaires in the country than ever before. And it's a Fidelity report. So, hey, if you're one of those 401k millionaires and you want to retire at 65, you got your Medicare, you can use your 401k to take some out and get you to age 67 or 70 when you start your Social Security, if you're lucky enough to have that much money in your 401k.
Yep.
Not everybody has that much, but if you do, that's a way. And then by the time you get to the required minimum distribution age and you're having to take money out of your 401k, maybe it will be more manageable as far as taxes, So that's another strategy that you could talk to a financial advisor about, because they look at all your sources of income and try and help you figure out the optimal way to take all those incomes and not have a big tax implication and so on.
Yeah, that's a really clever idea. You leave and you draw on your 401k to defer your Social Security, so you maximize that. Let me give you another idea here.
What's another idea?
What if you do that, but you don't leave? You drop to 40 hours and you're over 59 and a half. You take money out of your $1 million 401k and live on that while you continue to be an employee.
You could do that.
You could do
and
that.
And then wait and take your Social Security later.
Yes.
And retire.
So I know it would be so much easier to have a chart showing all of these options. There's no chart for how badly do I not want to go to work.
And it's individual. It's all according to you, your situation, do you have a pension? Do you have a healthy 401k balance? It varies so much from person to person.
It does. And the motivation for not going to work are sometimes I'm just over it.
Some people have all of the above. They have healthy balance. They're over 70. They have their full Social Security, but they're not ready to leave. They're still loving flying. They like to go to Athens or, Venice and enjoy the layover. So they're going to keep going a little bit longer. Maybe they're flying less. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But yeah, the motivation is different for everyone.
Yeah. It's funny. You should say Athens. I managed to get a big girl trip. And
I have not.
And went to Athens, and I've never been to Greece, but so I was so excited about it. I get on the airplane, and I'm the junior punk on the airplane. I'm like, okay, and so we had a lot of retirement questions, but yeah. And the other thing is that some of the motivations for not going to work are things like, I need to take care of my grandkids, or the health interest. So I wish I could give you a nice, quick, simple answer on that, but there really isn't a chart. But there's a lot of variables, and you do want to make sure that you have not missed something. But you'll probably make the right choice.
Okay, and they have something about a summary checklist would be helpful. 5 years to retirement, 3 years to retirement, 2 years, 1 year. I mean, we have a checklist. It's generally not that far out. We have like 6 months, 3 months, 30 days before retirement sort of checklist. But I guess you could look at the 6 months out one and then kind of extrapolate further out. Just the sooner you start thinking about it, the better, and the sooner you start talking to some of these experts and come up with a plan, the better, So some people do that way before their retirement. Some people start a year out, but again, it's up to you and your comfort level. And, if you think you're on top of it and you've looked at all this yourself, then you may not need to start to talk to a financial planner until a year or two out. But if you're like the person that submitted the question before and they're 72 and they're already coming up on those required minimum distributions for an account outside of their company 401k. You might have started a few years ago to think about that, with a financial advisor, and they would give you some strategies for what to do. So a lot of it depends on your age and how close you are to retirement.
Yeah, and the last question for this section, they're saying, I'm trying to decide between drawing Social Security at 62, 65, 67, 70. How do I calculate? Is there a formula for determining which is the maximization? And there is. The good news is there's a really good math formula for determining which is the maximum. The problem is the first input is what day you're going to die. And we don't know.
And they don't know.
They don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, hopefully. And the best way to think about it is, where am I, am I going to be in the half that lives longer than average or shorter than average? And just go with that, because you just don't know that first number. I also want to make one, we had talked about that, rolling the IRA back to the 401k to avoid RMDs, and we never really explained why you would do that. And the reason is, at age, this is still 72 and a half, you have RMDs, they keep changing the number. Let's say 73.
73, and by the time I get to retire, it'll be 75 for me. So it's 70, now 73
or 75.
Or 75, I think.
When you hit the RMD age, whether it's 73, 75, you have to start taking required minimum distributions from your IRA. Your 401k, on the other hand, depends on whether or not you're still working. So if you're one of those 45, 80-year-old plus still working, they are not paying RMDs, because if you're still working for the employer whose 401k you're a member of, they do not make you take RMDs out of your 401k. I'm not sure we explicitly said that, so glad to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that's the questions on these.
I think we've got one or two more pension questions.
Uh-oh.
So this is, I guess I keep hearing about, this is more about the age 62. So I think
that's the one I just answered.
Okay. So then there's one more that came in down on the bottom. Does the U.S. Airways pension benefit amount continue to grow if someone waits past age 62 or 65, whichever is? So do the PBGC pensions continue to grow if you wait past age 62 or 65? And I would say call the PBGC on that one.
Yeah.
I've heard that they do, and I don't know how much, and I don't know if it depends on where you started your career as to whether that's true. So the best thing to do is call the PBGC, but I have heard of people that have called, and in their particular situation, they were told that if they waited up to a certain age, that it would continue to increase.
Yeah. And again, because there's 5 different plans out there, you need to talk to them specifically so that you get the rules for your plan, because each pension has different requirements. So for instance, the LAA pension has deferred credits after age 70 and a half. Our staff here is UAW represented, and theirs deferred pension credits start earlier. So you have to figure out you have to talk to the PBGC for those specific rules on your specific plan.
Okay, then can you explain the different options for taking the pension single life annuity versus, I think we've already done that.
I think I went through the 3.5 basic ways to do that.
And then I'm 61 years old with 39 years of service. I believe I do have a pension. Where can I get details?
Great question. Go to Fidelity, where you go for your 401k. And if you have an LAA pension, over on the left-hand side of the column, you'll see my 401k. Scroll down and you'll see if you've got an FSA or an HSA or a American Airlines flight attendant pension plan.
And then if you're Legacy US, you'd have to contact the PBGC.
Correct.
To find out if you have a pension.
And the PBGC website's a little weird. I would recommend you call the PBGC and verify, because in order to turn on the website, you have to verify your pension. So call the PBGC and verify you've got a pension with them, and then they will give you the instructions for getting your My PBA access.
And I think US Airways went through bankruptcy and got rid of their pensions in 2005, was it? I think so. If you were working and you had to have worked at least 5 years before that to be eligible for a pension. So that kind of gives you a little framework on whether or not you might have a US Air pension. Okay, let's keep going. Got one more section and then we got quite a few more questions, it looks like. So next will be medical insurance options. This is a big deal. So, other than Medicare and including Medicare, what are my medical insurance options? One, you have COBRA. And if you look at the dollar signs, COBRA is pretty expensive. AA retiree medical insurance, it's extremely expensive. It's what we used to pre-fund for back in the day. And then when AA went through bankruptcy, that went away. And now if we want this retirement medical insurance, and we're between 55 and 65 and eligible for the 65-point plan, we can still get it, but we have to pay. Then there's the Affordable Care Act. So, Obamacare, you can get insurance from the health care exchanges, and that's still out there, hopefully, for people that need it. Medicare, if you're 65 or older, that is your option, basically, unless you're married and your spouse has a job and you have insurance under them, or you get a different job after you retire and have your own health insurance through a company that has creditable coverage. Or the old-fashioned way, hey, you can marry someone with insurance, woohoo, or die young, but that's not really an option. We don't like that one. So COBRA, let's talk a little bit about COBRA. COBRA is a way to continue the health insurance that you had as an active employee. You don't have to reestablish your deductible or your out-of-pockets or anything like that. It's great. The participant pays the full cost, however, plus a 2% administrative fee. So right now, what we're paying is 20% of the full cost, and the company pays 80%. When we go on COBRA, we're paying 100% of the full cost. So that's going to be pretty pricey for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people are waiting until they're 65. But basically, the coverage will last for 18 months. If you become eligible for Social Security disability, it can last for up to 29 months. It must be elected within the first 60 days of leaving the company. And basically, COBRA, in order to be offered COBRA, you need a trigger. And the trigger for being offered COBRA when you retire is your retirement. So there's no way to sign up for the COBRA in advance. A lot of people want to cross everything off the list and do it in advance. But unfortunately, with the COBRA, you have to wait till you retire. Then you go on the retirees website, you'll be able to see the option to elect your COBRA. It's a one-shot deal. So if you miss that 60-day window, you're not going to be offered it again. So if you do think you're going to use COBRA, make sure you sign up within the 60 days. COBRA can include medical, dental, vision, and flex spending accounts, and you can mix and match. Many people, I would say the majority of our retirees who are eligible for Medicare, they don't, but they do continue their dental and vision with COBRA. So you can do that even if you're going on Medicare, but don't include the medical in that. Once coverage begins, it's retroactive to the date that you leave American Airlines. So, like I said, the trigger is your retirement. So you're not going to be able to start it right away when you retire. It's going to have a little bit of an administrative delay. So say you retire on August 1st and you sign up on the 5th. Once you sign up, it's retro back to the day of your retirement, and it will be as though you didn't lose your coverage. Payments. You don't want to be late with COBRA or your coverage will be dropped. They're really particular about that. So if you need the COBRA coverage, be careful that you don't pay late. Set up a direct debit or something. All right, COBRA and Medicare. One last thing, if you're eligible for Medicare, like I said before, COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage once you're eligible for Medicare. So you don't want to say, oh, I'm going to do COBRA because I like my AA insurance. If you're eligible for Medicare, that's not going to work. Don't do it. COBRA is always secondary to Medicare. So that means even if you don't sign up for Medicare, COBRA is going to pay as though it's secondary to your Medicare. So you really need to sign up for Medicare. All right, AA retiree medical insurance. And I think we have some questions about this. So again, you got to be between 55 and 65 at the time of your retirement and eligible for the 65-point plan. The participant pays the full cost of this coverage. The price is uncapped. It actually doubled in 2015. It is very unstable. It varies a lot from year to year. I think I've seen it gone down very minimally one year, but most years it goes up.
That makes it very hard to budget.
It certainly does. So the retiree rates for 2026 will get there, but the coverage is really good. You know, if you need it and you have the money, you're one of those 401k millionaires, hey, go for it. But, you know, $150 deductible per person, $400, I know, $1,000 out-of-pocket max. Sounds great.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. But per month for one individual, $2,563. And yet that is per month. That's not annually. This is a question we have on our list. So, now that our emotional support animal has fainted at the outrageous costs we're seeing here, what are some other options? Well, as we mentioned, the Affordable Care Act is an option. You can go to healthcare.gov, and depending on your state, you know, you can see what options you have in your state. It will vary considerably from state to state. You might be eligible for tax credits if your income is low enough, you know, but there are some other things that could affect your ability to get those tax credits, like if you have money in a HSA. And some people say in the RHRA, you might not be qualifying for a tax credit. I don't know for sure about the RHRA. I know for sure if you have an HSA, you don't qualify for tax credits. Another reason to talk to a healthcare advisor, and here's one, VIA Benefits. They are contracted with by American Airlines. If you're pre-65 and you're looking for health insurance, they can help you find an Affordable Care Act plan. If you're post-65 and looking for Medicare plans, they can help you with that as well. All right, Medicare. You want to talk about Medicare?
Let's talk about Medicare. The most common question we get about Medicare is, I or my spouse are turning 65. What do I have to sign up for?
Nothing.
Nothing. Oh, but my sister says I have to. Yeah, nothing. Oh, but I read in the economic magazine that I had. No, you do not.
If
you continue to have your qualified employer insurance, Americans is qualified.
So if you're still working and you have AA insurance, if
Yes.
you are not still working and you're going to do COBRA, yes, you do have to sign up for Medicare.
Exactly. And I still love to tell the story. We had a VOP. We had one of our 78-year-old flight attendants take the VOP, and her and her 81-year-old husband went down to Social Security office to sign up for Medicare, and they kept going, no, you have to have signed up, and they had their proof from American that they had insurance and didn't pay a single penalty, even though they had been eligible for years. So.
No, I think in one situation, well, we're going to talk about the different parts.
Talk about the different parts. So, yes. You now you didn't sign up for Medicare, but now you're going to go ahead and leave American's plan, and you need to sign up for Medicare. Let's talk about Medicare. Well, there are two types of Medicare. There's classic Medicare, which is what people have talked about for most of the life. You've heard them, Part A, Part B, Part D. And then there is the new part called the Advantage plan. That's spelled with one A, not Advantage like American, Advantage. So on the Part A, Part B, Part D, Part A is the one you have pre-funded. You've been paying for Part A health insurance, Medicare since you started working. It's a little couple of things taken out of your paycheck every month. So over the course of your entire working life, you have been pre-funding that, which means that when you finally get to it, there is no premium. It's free or prepaid. I prefer prepaid over free.
Pre-funded, right?
Yeah, pre-funded because I did pay for it just over 40 years. Part B is you have to pay a premium, and it's a fixed rate premium for everyone depending on how much income you have. And then Part D is for drugs, and the Part D premium depends on which plan you go with because Part D is offered by private insurance companies. So.
And Part A, you can sign up for it or not while you're still working because it's free. A lot of people sign up for it. But I think if you have TRICARE or some kind of military insurance, you might be required to sign up for it.
Correct.
So if you have TRICARE, check with your veterans, association or whatever, and make sure you know whether you need to sign up for Part A or not.
Correct. Now, because you're paying for Part B, which covers your doctor's visits. Part A covers hospitalization. Part B covers doctors and testing. And you're paying for Part D, which covers drugs. And you go, I'm healthy. I'm not using any of that stuff. Why would I want to pay for it? So you wait until you start feeling sick, and then you go in and you go, I need to sign up for Part B. And they go, you should have been paying for this for 5 years. And they charge you a late enrollment fee, or most people call it the penalty, late enrollment fee. Well, what happens if I work for American until I'm 70 and then I go and sign up? They say, oh, we're going to have a late enrollment fee because you didn't sign up at 65. No, Patrick said I didn't need to sign up. They said, well, can you prove you had insurance? Yes, I can, actually. There's a form for that because it's a government. And the form is the CMSL 564. Doesn't that just roll off your tongue? The CMSL 564 form. And it reminds me of all the world, like the FMLA form. You fill at the top. You send the form in to American, they fill out the bottom, they send it back to you, and it says, yes, you had insurance from this date to this date, so you were covered under an approved plan. So when you retire past age 65, you will most likely need to have this form filled out. You can download it off the Medicare website. I think it's on our website. I know it's on
Actually, now they've updated their process, so you can just call the Benefits Service Center at American Airlines and say you're retiring, you're over 65, and you need the form that shows you've had AA coverage since you turned 65. And the Benefits Service Center will fill it out for you, the top and the bottom portion. The only thing they don't put on it is your Social Security number. And they used to snail mail it to you, but now they email it to you to your little secure mailbox that's in the Benefits Service Center. So you go to Benefits on JetNet, and you'll click on Benefits Service Center, and up in the corner, there's a little bell that says if you have messages or not. That's where your secure mailbox is. And you go there, you print it up, and you take it to Social Security.
Oh my God, it's like living in the future.
It's like living in the future.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
You don't even have to fill it out and send it in anymore.
That is wonderful. All right. So that's how you're going to avoid the penalty. That's why you don't have to sign up for Medicare, because there's no penalty. And when your sister tells you, oh no, you've got to sign up for it, you pay a penalty, you go, I've got the form. I've got the form. All right, excellent. Medicare. Now, the problem with Medicare is it's an 80-20 plan. So when you go into the hospital, your Part A is going to pay, you have, $1 million worth of hospitalization. And I used to think that was a ridiculous example. And then I started looking at some medical bills. No, it's not a ridiculous. You go in and you've got $1 million. Part A is going to pay their 80%, 800,000, but the 200,000, the 20% is on you. And not only that, there's no out-of-pocket maximum. So what do? Well, there's something called a Medigap policy, and it fills in, it pays for the part that Medicare does not pay for. And you have to go in, and that's in addition to the Part A, Part B, Part D, you've got this Medigap policy. And because they want it to be at least partially clear. There are 10 different medical policies available out there.
Again, choices.
Choices, too many choices. We have a chart within our retirement handbook, good slide, that shows you those 10 different Medigap plans available. You have to contact the different ones to find the rates because the rates vary depending on where you live. But say you want a plan that you want to make sure you get a plan that covers you while you're traveling internationally. Well, that's not all of them do. Some of them don't cover if you're out of their coverage area. So you want to make sure that you get the right one of those 10 plans and then find the best price available. Because when you go to Aetna and say, what's your plan B cost? That plan B is exactly comparable to the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan B, and the only difference is the price. So it makes it actually much easier to shop for. Now, if you're the AA retirees, and we don't mean LA, we mean all the American Airline retirees, have an 11th option. It's a Medigap Viva, created specifically for retired airline workers. And we have the contact information in the good slide packet as well. Now, remember I said earlier that there's the Advantage plans? Those are called Part C Advantage plans. And what they do is they take your Medicare and they privatize it into essentially an HMO. And for some people, that is wonderful. They don't have to worry about the B, the D, the sub, it's all just one plan. They make one payment. And because it's privatized, there's insurance companies out there making a profit on Medicare Advantage plans. And so they will try to encourage you to sign up for it by giving you things that perks that the little classic Medicare doesn't have. So for instance, I referenced the Silver Sneakers gym membership. They may pay for dental, which classic Medicare, or glasses, or there's now
like grocery cards or something.
Grocery cards. Yeah. And the one that I thought was just amazing is there's one here in Dallas that will send a ride for you to get to the doctor. So you say, I've got a doctor's appointment at 2 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, their van shows up and takes you to the doctor, which when you can't drive anymore is an amazing benefit. So it may be amazing. You may be one of those persons that doesn't deal well with the restrictions within a plan. You have to see our cardiologist. You can't see the one you've been seeing for 22 years. So we definitely recommend that you talk to a Medicare advisors. If you want more information, oddly enough, Medicare.gov is a pretty user-friendly website. So definitely recommend that you go look at that as well. So that's this stuff. Kim, what else do I need to research?
Okay, and we'll try and get through these quickly because we know we're
running out
over on our time. So what else do I need to research? There are life events. We've got optional insurance, dental insurance, flexible spending accounts. So life events, the main thing to remember, if you're going to go on your spouse or your partner's insurance when you retire, your retirement is the life event trigger for them to add you to their coverage. So make sure they usually have 30 to 60 days to file a life event and add you. And they don't want to miss that window. You don't want them to miss that window. And this also applies if you're an American Airlines employee and your spouse is an American Airlines employee. And when you retire, you're going to go on their insurance. If you are married to another American Airlines employee, remember that when you switch to their insurance, it's not like COBRA where it's just a continuation of the same plan. It is a new plan and you're going to have to meet your deductibles and out-of-pocket insurance minimums again. So those will reset if you go on your spouse's plan. Some people, if they retire like November 1st, they may do COBRA for 1 month because they've met their deductible and out-of-pocket and then switch to their spouse's plan on January 1st for the next year. So there are little things to think about. All right, optional insurance. Optional insurance includes your MetLife legal, long-term care insurance, home and auto policies, pet insurance. Basically, all of those insurance options, you can continue those. You just contact the provider and say, hey, I want to continue my long-term care policy, actually, those should be all switched over from payroll deduction to direct bill by now. I think MetLife Long-Term Care did that about a year ago now, a little less than a year ago. But your MetLife legal, your pet insurance, home and auto policies, just reach out to the AA added benefits people and they'll tell you who to contact if you want to continue those policies. They're already individual policies, so the rates shouldn't change. Now with the employee life insurance and accident insurance, that will end, but you do have the option to port or convert those policies into individual policies within 30 to maybe 60 days. We always say 30 because we like, to err on the side of caution if you want to continue those policies. It does not require a physical exam to qualify, so that's a good thing. You need to contact New York Life for the AD&D and voluntary personal accident insurance, and MetLife for the life insurance. The long and short-term disability coverage will end. However, if you have a current claim with long or short-term disability, those payments will continue as long as you're eligible. So if you're getting long-term disability and you're still disabled and you filed your claim before you retired, you're going to still get those payments through as long as those payments are due to you. All right, dental insurance. Scary. It's getting a little bit better, but it's really frightening that it seems like Medicare doesn't cover dental and, nobody wants to take care of your teeth after you retire. It's not good. But anyway, MetLife retiree dental insurance will be offered to you when you retire, but most people don't take it. It's zip code rated. It's a very high dollar, low benefit product. So most people take a pass on the MetLife dental insurance for the retiree dental insurance. Now, most people do COBRA their dental insurance for 18 months. So that's different than the retiree dental. Other options are the AA Credit Union Dental Club through Benefit Services of America. It's more like a discounted network. So if you join that dental club and you go to a provider in their group, you get discounted rates on your dental. And I think Costco has something similar that quite a few flight attendants sign up for after they retire. They're becoming more available in terms of dental coverage, which is a good thing. Also, dental schools. I actually talked to somebody the other day that went to a dental school and got a bunch of stuff done, and they said they did a great job. It's a little scary because you're being, worked on by a dental student. However, the professors there, they make sure they do everything right. And it couldn't be a really good deal, heavy discounts on your dental care if you've got a dental school in your area. Okay, flex spending. Basically, normal times before you retire, the way it works is if you don't use it, you lose it. You want to use it all in 1 year. And if you don't, you lose it. Well, basically, AA, if you use all your flex spending dollars, like in the first 3 months of the year, you would normally keep making those deposits for the rest of the year because you signed up for it. But if you retire after those 3 months, guess what? AA has to eat it. So if you're going to retire, use all your flex spending and then retire, and you don't have to worry about the rest of the deposits for the year. AA has to cover that. So that's one time when you use it, they lose it. Haha. So, all right, Patrick.
All right. We have covered an awful lot here.
Yeah, it's been busy today. Good questions.
As you know, as we have said multiple times, your decisions are going to be personal to you. There isn't a formula. You have to decide. You have so many different variables. But I have good news for you. Even though there are a lot of moving pieces, there is nothing you can't handle. I have seen you get up in front of 298 people and just make it work magically. What else you need to do before you leave? You start a list. How do you follow a list? You follow
one step at a time.
One step at a time in order. You've done this before. A great checklist to start is on page 37 of the APFA Retirement Handbook. Good slide. Do it one step at a time in order, just like a planned emergency checklist. Kind of think of it as a planned departure checklist. It will work wonders. Why does it work wonders? For the same reason an emergency checklist. It makes sure that you don't miss anything.
Keeps you on track.
Keeps you on track, keeps you going in the right direction. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I am willing to bet really good money that this is the first time you've ever retired. You know, for most of us, yeah, it is. How much practice have you gotten at this? Zero. So do not be afraid to ask questions. And APFA retirement is probably one of the best places to ask questions. But after all this, you're prepared. You got this. You're ready. Let's go. Good slide.
Good slide.
Good slide.
Okay, we've got quite a few more questions. If you have to go, we understand we're over, but we're going to keep going on the questions. And
yeah, crew tracking called and asked if we're going to VE. All right. Kim, first question's for you. If I retire on December 2nd, 2026, is my health care from American paid through the end of December? Meaning, I don't have to shop for a policy?
No, that's a rumor going around out there. Everybody thinks, oh, if I retire on, before the end of the month, my insurance is going to continue because, hey, I am prepaying. But as we discussed earlier, your benefits are paid current. And when you retire, your benefits end. So if you retire on the first of the month, your benefits end at midnight on the 30th or the 31st. So no, they don't continue through the end of the month.
Okay.
So plan accordingly.
So then the question is, I would like to, there was so much, can I review this? Yes, absolutely. There are two places you can review this presentation. One is on the APFA website. Go to retirement or go to the videos link. Both of them will get you there. The second is on YouTube. About a week or so later, this will appear on there. And
or the APFA website, if you go to news, you don't have to log in or anything. You go to news and click on town halls, and then you'll see all the town halls, and you can click on the retirement one. You don't even have to go to YouTube. So whatever's easier for you.
Now, 3 different ways to get to it on the APFA website. So yay. Okay. This is for you, Kim. I plan to retire in my CQ month, so I still need to schedule a class via PBS before the 6th of the month.
Okay, that's optional. You don't have to schedule one. If you don't schedule one, they're probably going to put one on your schedule because, as Patrick mentioned, you may have put in your retirement notification. Training doesn't really look at that. They just say, so if you want to bid and you don't want them to put something on your schedule that could mess with your bidding, then go ahead and schedule it. And then once you've got your bids and everything, you can call your manager and say, hey, manager, you can see that I'm going to retire. Please call training and have them remove CQ from my schedule. So it's up to you whether you want to bid or not. You don't have to, but if you want more control of your schedule, you might want to go ahead and bid for it.
Yes. Okay, I'll take this one. Will there be a potential buyout offer? We get a buyout. I've been doing negotiations for this labor union for a long time. And I have seen several different buyout offers, and it's consistently always when they need to reduce headcount. We aren't there. You remember that chart we showed? They've got thousands of people coming in every year. We are not there. None of us can see the future. So I can't tell you yes or no, but your thing to look at is, are we hiring? And if we're hiring, then there's almost no chance that we'll have an early out. I mean, never say never. This is the world. But
if something happens, like God forbid, another COVID or
another 9/11 or something, you never know what the future is. But those are the things to look at. Are we hiring? And if the answer is yes, we're not going to have an early out. Do we need to reduce headcount? Because there are periods. We went through on the LAA side. We went through 10 years of not hiring. We weren't late, well, we laid some people off, but there wasn't a downward pressure such that we needed to get rid of more people. So we didn't even have buyouts during that period. But if we're at a point where we need to reduce headcount, that's when to get a buyout. I don't see it out there. Obviously, something could happen. This is for you, Kim. I just found out that our HSA, which is contributed by the company, is taxable once we file for Medicare. So there's a 6-month look back for any HSA deposits. Please let people know to plan accordingly. Talk to a Medicare advisor.
Talk to a Medicare advisor, because I know that if you're signed up for Medicare Part A, you can't contribute to an HSA. So that's one of the other times, you know, lots of people sign up for Medicare Part A because it's free, but if you're contributing to an HSA, you can't sign up for it because you can't be contributing to an HSA and be signed up for Medicare Part A. And I heard something recently, and I don't know if it's new, about them doing a 6-month look back before, when you sign up for Medicare, to see if you have contributed to an HSA in the last 6 months before you signed up for Medicare. I don't have any information on that. So if there is something that we should add to the presentation, again, we're not Medicare experts and we don't pretend to be, but I'll look out there online and talk to a few people. And if there is something that we should add about that to our checklist, like discontinue, HSA contributions 6 months before retiring and signing up for Medicare, then I will put that out there. We need to do a little bit more research. And about the taxation thing, I'm not really sure on that either. So I apologize that I can't really give a good answer. Do you have any other information on that, Patrick?
I do not. I do not. All right. This one is also for you. Is supplemental Medicare insurance based on your income? And if so, is it from the past 2 years? And is it a significant change?
So the Medicare supplement plans are not. They're just a certain price and you go and sign up for them, and what it is what it is. However, your Part B and your Part D of Medicare they're going to do a 2-year look back. And if your income, either your income before retirement, when you retire, or after retirement, if there's a year where you're taking a ton of money out of your 401k and that kicks you into a higher tax bracket, that could make your Medicare premiums for B and D increase. So that's another reason to talk to a Medicare expert, because they'll be able to help you with that. So to answer again, the Medicare supplement plans are not affected by your income, but the Medicare B and D premiums can be affected by your income.
And you've probably heard that before, but what do they call that? They call it
IRMA, and we do have a question about IRMA. They wanted us to discuss IRMA, so let's see if we can find that question.
All right.
Will you discuss IRMA?
I'll take this next question.
Okay.
Will you look at IRMA there? There are a lot of people flying around my seniority, 3,900, that aren't 65 yet and would like to retire, me included. Would be nice to have something to pay for health insurance until we can get on Medicare. We do, actually. And that is your RHRA. That your RHRA, if you have unused sick time, you get 50% of the value of that contributed to an RHRA, which when you then retire, you can use to pay for medical premiums, assuming they're post-tax. So yeah.
Or if you sign up for the Plus plan for like 5 years before you retire, they're going to put $1,000 a year in an RHRA, and that might be enough to cover, some of your Medicare premiums if you say retire at 63 rather than 65 or something like that. So that's another optional bridge.
So that's 2. Let me give you a third one. We have something called a health savings account. And if you take the core plan for medical insurance, you can contribute to the HSA. The HSA can be used to pay for healthcare premiums when you retire as well. So that's 3 different ways for you to get there. So totally get it. And I'm glad APFA worked hard to get us that sick bank payout that we can use for our health insurance.
So the IRMA question is just, will you discuss IRMA?
Yeah, she's delightful.
She's delightful, yeah. And we have a Medicare presentation, and we'll do it again in the fall. We have a special edition of our seminar that just deals with Medicare. So we have a picture of a kind of a annoying looking older lady, and we say that's IRMA.
That's IRMA.
But anyway, what does it stand for? Income, retirement, something.
Adjustment.
Adjustment, yeah. income-related.
Medicare.
Income-related Medicare adjustment, something
Like that.
Yeah, so that means they're gonna always do this look back of your earned income over the 2 years prior to starting a new year on Medicare. And if your income goes above a certain amount, you might have to pay more for your B and D premium. So that's what IRMA is. So you kind of always have to be looking at your income, because I think in the first 2 tax brackets, it's not a huge increase, but then if you bump up to the 3rd tax bracket, it goes from like $200 and something to like close to $700 a month or something like that. So it's something you're always going to have to be aware of in retirement. But again, talk to your Medicare and financial experts, and they can sort of help you plan for that in terms of how you handle your money in retirement.
Yeah. And I have one more thing on IRMA, and that is IRMA basically has the philosophy that Bill Gates should not have to should pay more for his Medicare than I do, since he makes so much more than I do, and we look at the income. Every once in a while, particularly on those transition point where you go to retirement, sometimes you have a lot of income. You get your vacation and sick time cashed out. You may have to do a conversion of regular 401k or IRA into Roth, and all of a sudden for 1 year you've got a huge amount, and that impacts you with IRMA. If it truly is an extraordinary thing, like your vacation pay and your sick pay pushed your income over, you can actually do an appeal and say it was a special event, special occurrence, and not I'm rich. And if you can convince them of that, they waive the IRMA. And then next year, when they do the 2-year look back, it's fallen off. So,
but if you go into your 401k and you take a distribution for that RV you always wanted, that amount would be added to your income, because a distribution you take from your 401k is considered income. So make sure you're kind of watching it. And if you want to buy all of your kids a car, maybe don't do it in the same year that you're buying the RV for yourself, because all that stuff, if you take it out, it's going to be considered income, and it can trigger the whole IRMA increase. And that's something that retirees don't always think about. You think you're just going to be paying the same amount. And sometimes people fall into that trap where all of a sudden they're having to pay quite a bit more for their Medicare premiums.
Speaking of premiums, this question's for you.
Okay.
I was looking at the Good Slide packet, and I see for the retiree standard medical that the premiums are $2,563. That can't be per month, because that would be over $30,000 a year. Is that monthly or is that annual?
That is monthly. That's the reason why we have that little fainting goat in the slide, and we, feel like the retiree medical that is offered really isn't an option for most people. So that's why we talk about all these other options, and why most people wait until they're eligible for Medicare, because that is the actual cost. It's scary, but it's true.
This is for you. I'm out of work. I'm probably on the 5-year medical leave, not FMLA. I'm still paying for insurance, even though I'm old enough to have Medicare. I'm unsure of the coverage of Medicare and was afraid to switch over. So I have concerns about if Medicare is as good as my coverage I have from American through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Should I switch?
Okay, so if you are still paying for insurance from the company, because the way it works when you go on a medical leave, as long as you have sick time, you're on payroll. So once even if you have a whole year of sick time, you're still on payroll, you're getting paid with your sick time, you have normal AA health insurance benefits. Once you run out of sick time, there's a little sort of a 12-month clock. And then AA is going to offer you the same medical benefits, active medical benefits, but because you're not on payroll anymore, they direct bill you for those benefits. So after you run out of sick time for 12 months, you get direct billed for AA active insurance. So for this person, I imagine they're either still using their sick time, or they're in that 12 months when AA is, still subsidizing their benefits and direct billing them. After that 12 months ends, you're going to receive a COBRA solicitation. They're going to tell you you're eligible for COBRA. And if you're eligible for Medicare and they offer you COBRA, you have to go on Medicare at that point. The health department called me about a person who didn't elect COBRA, and they elected COBRA and they should have elected Medicare, and all of a sudden their bills weren't being paid. So that's what happens if you are eligible for Medicare and you try and elect COBRA for your medical benefits. So if this person wants to go into more details about their situation with me, they can either call me or email me. The call, it's 817-540-0108. And when you get to the voicemail menu, you hit 1 for a rep on duty and then 6 for the retirement specialist. Or to email, it's retirement@apfa.org. And I'll be happy to help you figure out your situation. As far as Medicare being just as good, it's different. But, it's like getting used to a new thing. But most retirees I talk to, and a few people actually choose to go on before they retire. Once they figure it out, they seem to think it's just as good. The one thing that for most people that's a little bit more expensive is if you have a lot of prescription medications. That's the main thing that seems to be more expensive with Medicare.
Speaking of expensive, the next question is, I am currently on Americans Insurance, and I am going to, my insurance window ends, so I'm going to switch to Medicare. I am in the middle of extensive and expensive treatments. Do I have to worry about a pre-existing condition exclusion when I go to Medicare?
No, you do not. When you first sign up for Medicare, either when you're first eligible in your age 65 window, or if you sign up, well, I don't know, if you're signing up just in the middle of the year or during the Medicare enrollment period, if you haven't signed up before.
Your first enrollment into Medicare, there's zero pre-existing condition exclusions in any of the plans.
Right. So, but if if they've been eligible for a while, they might want to talk to a Medicare specialist.
Correct.
And wait and do it during either when they retire or during the annual Medicare enrollment window or something like that. That person should also call me or email me and we'll get more information about the situation.
All right, excellent.
But if you're, okay, so.
Okay, this one's for me. And it says you may have already answered this question, but I'm turning 65 and I'm not planning on retiring until 6 months after that. Do I have to sign up for Medicare? Nope. That was easy.
That was easy. I like that one.
All right. Okay, if I retire before, this is for you, if I retire before age 65, so I'm going to have to get health insurance that's not Medicare. Can I use my RHRA money for that?
You can use your RHRA money for premiums that are paid post-tax. So if you go on your spouse's insurance and their premiums are, pre-tax deducted from their pay, you can't use it for those premiums. If you get a new job and you have health care from the new job and the premiums are taken out pre-tax, you can't use it for that. But if you go on the Affordable Care Act, if you do COBRA, or if you go on Medicare, you can use it for those premiums.
All right, this next one is for Patrick. It says, hey, if I a LAA pension, and I decide to retire at age 65 and start my pension, what's the formula for that? And there's actually a good formula, and you can find that on pages 14 and 15 of our Good Slide packet. Essentially, there's a 3% per year reduction for each year prior to age 60, if you qualify for the age 60 pension. And the formula's in there, so you can do
And
that
also, if
calculation.
you go on the Fidelity website, you can actually run an estimate for all different ages. So you could go into the Fidelity website, pull up your pension, and then you click on AA Flight Attendant Pension. It opens up a page and it says model certain dates or something like that. And you can put in age 55 as your retirement. You can put in 56, 60, and you can compare the difference in how it's going to affect your pension amount if you were to take it early. So that's a really useful tool to use as well.
All right, and then the last question is for you. Am I able to keep my employee life insurance when I retire?
Yes, you can keep it. It's going from a group policy under the company to an individual policy. And we mentioned earlier in the presentation that you have to port or convert it within 60 days of your retirement date. And it gets quite a bit more expensive. So you don't have to port or convert the full amount into an individual policy. Say you have like 8 times to pay or something like that. You could just choose to, convert 20,000, 100,000, and maybe that wouldn't be as expensive. I do know it gets quite a bit more expensive when you port or convert it into an individual policy. And MetLife would be who you would contact about the porting or converting of the life insurance.
And the one thing we would advise on that is if you decide you need life insurance, my first question is, why do you need life insurance? You're 65 or you're something years old. You probably don't need life insurance for the reasons you needed originally, which was to keep the promises you made, like raising kids. That's probably all done. But if you decide you do need life insurance, call and find out what your port or convert rates are, and then go to the internet and find out if you can find that same amount of insurance at your age and health conditions
At a better rate.
at a better rate. So shop for it. All right. All right. Very good. I think that is the end of our questions.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate it. And you know how to reach retirement@apfa.org if you have more questions or need a retirement packet or anything else. I hope you have a good day. Fly
Have a
safe.
great day.